And our invitation will be given by my good friend Dave Woodyard today. With more than 30 years in the service and hospitality industry, and you can come on up to the, if you want to. Dave Woodyard has leveraged his extensive experience and longtime commitment to social welfare to become President and Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Charities Dallas in February of 2016. At Catholic Charities, he oversees the organization's nearly $15 million budget consisting of 17 programs serving more than 30,000 children, families, and seniors needs every year. The position taps his deep service and organization growth experience, as well as ongoing board and trustee roles at several of Dallas's faith-based educational and philanthropic organizations. He and his wife, Kathleen, reside in Dallas and have 5 children. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. It's an honor to be here with you today. Please let us pray together. Dear Lord, your glory is evident in all we see around us. Your love is given in many ways, from food and nourishment you provide for our survival to the championship you offer us through one another. We thank you and call upon you to provide the many skills and abilities we need to accomplish your work here on earth. And remind us in your compassion to look for you in everything and to serve your people with the same care that you yourself bestow on us every day. We know that you have gifted us with the responsibility to care for those who cannot care for themselves. Please provide your grace to the children and families that are suffering all over the world, and especially in our country. Teach us and guide us to truly be golden in all that we do in service to others. Guide our hearts and minds through today and all days. Give us the courage to set aside our pride as we learn how best to work together, to be your hands and feet on earth, to care for your poor and your vulnerable, while giving us the strength to seek help when we need it and to rely on one another to accomplish your will on earth. We praise you and we bless you for all your greatest gifts and offer our work for the glory of your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And Commissioner Cantrell has our first resolution.
Judge and Commissioners, it's my honor today to issue a resolution for James Kelly Selman. If he'll come up, and Mo and Tony and whoever else you have with you. And I'll read the resolution and then move its adoption. Whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court recognizes and extends sincere appreciation to individuals who have given a long career of faithful service to Dallas County. And whereas Dallas County recognizes James Kelly Selman, P.E., and his retirement after 32 years of service with the Texas Department of Transportation, effective May 30th, 2018, Kelly's poise, leadership, and engineering acumen have served the Dallas District of TxDOT well, and he will be greatly missed. And whereas Kelly, a White Rock native, began his TxDOT career in 1986 after earning a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Texas A&M University, he started as an engineering assistant for the roadway design section of the Dallas District Office. He transferred to the Collin County Area Office in 1990, where he served as a construction project engineer, area office design manager, and assistant area engineer before he became Collin County Area Engineer in March of 2004. And whereas in 2006, Kelly became the Dallas District Director of Transportation Operations. He was then named as Director of Transportation Planning and Development in 2009, a post he held until being named Deputy District Engineer in 2010. Whereas Kelly was named Dallas District Engineer in December of 2014, since then he has led the district to many successes, including the completion of both the $798 million Horseshoe Project and the $1.4 million 35 Express Project, along with the recent procurement of the $666 million Southern Gateway Design Build contract, a Texas Clear Lanes project. He also guided the district as its planning program expanded to its current level of $24 billion, an effort that helps ensure the next generation of North Texas mobility needs will continue to be addressed. And whereas one of Kelly's many legacies in Dallas is the Engineering Assistant Training Program, which he first started in Collin County and then took district-wide. It provides EAs an established rotation in multiple disciplines, and it also pairs TxDOT's engineers of tomorrow with mentors in various leadership positions throughout the district. And whereas Kelly has a wonderful family, which includes his wife Denise and son Lance, and he's TxDOT's assistant area engineer for Wise and Jack counties, and daughters Keely and Natalie. And whereas Kelly is a longtime member of the White-Wright ISD Board of Trustees and a founding member of the White-Wright Youth Baseball Softball Association, in his retirement he plans to travel and pursue other opportunities in the private sector. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize and extend sincere appreciation to Kelly Selman for his leadership, commitment, and dedication to Dallas County, and further wishes his continued happiness in his retirement, and I so move.
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Kelly?
Well, I would like to thank you for having me here today. I'm very honored and humbled at your recognition. I'd like to say to the Commissioners Court, Judge Jenkins, and the entire court, and I have to recognize Commissioner Price, our first Road Hand Award winner, and Commissioner Cantrell, also our Road Hand Award winner, for your dedication to Dallas County and the transportation system in Dallas County, and all of the assistance that you give to TxDOT and the RTC in delivering projects. Like I said at RTC, we're focused on outcomes, and I think y'all do a great job. And the people at TxDOT are a wonderful group of people that definitely appreciate all of the support that you've given. 32 years of serving the people of the Dallas district. I've spent a lot of time in Dallas County working on projects. And I talked about Brian Barth. He and I worked together on the I-30 project across Ray Hubbard. It was our first big design project that we actually did together, and then moved up to Collin County and came back. And I've got to commend Bill Hale for his leadership, and Bill's been great for Dallas, and definitely my mentor, and I really appreciate all that Bill has done too. And I'm leaving things in very good hands with Mo Burr, my deputy that's been named the district engineer, and I'm very confident that Mo's going to continue the great things that we've been able to accomplish together, and it is a partnership. And all I can say to you is thank you very much. I appreciate all that you've ever done, and God bless. Thank you. Appreciate the recognition.
Well, we just want to thank you because it's unbelievable how responsive you've always been to Dallas County and how much you've assisted us in all of our projects across the board. And we just really appreciate it. You know, he drives in from White-Wright every day, and you're talking about a long trip. That's a pretty good haul. Now you have landed somewhere else and going to be doing some engineering and stuff. So we haven't lost your talents, and they're still going to be in the area. So we appreciate that. And Mo, we appreciate you and what you're going to be doing for Dallas County. You've always been accessible and done a great job. And of course, you had Tony Hartzell with you. He went from the dark side to the side of now spokesman for TxDOT instead of out of the media. He's out of the media. So that's good.
The dark side of the white side. But anyway.
Either side.
Yeah. Kelly, you know, and I guess as one of the people who've been around here long enough to know that Bill Hale and some of you guys started out in a little place called Hutchins and just kind of migrated. And of course, he's all the way in Austin now. I didn't know if you were leaving now and handing off to Mo because of Loop 9 or because you're having to attend those meetings over on Martin Luther King, or
I think it was more 635.
yeah, I don't know. They weren't real pleased when we did the inauguration of Gateway. I wasn't real kind to them, but they understood. But I appreciate your accessibility as well. To meet with individuals, constituents in the community, explain these projects. They're difficult at best, and most people don't realize that it takes anywhere, and people who are serious about projects, you know, it takes 6 years or better to bring a project to fruition, and in case of Gateway, you know, maybe 15 years, 20 years. And some of us never get a chance to see these projects to fruition. But I just want to thank you. You've always been willing to meet, and regardless of how difficult those meetings get with state reps and others, you guys have stayed in there. And so I want to thank you and wish you luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just wanted to say kind of briefly, the understatement of I-30. That's just that little project that you worked on that made such a huge, huge, huge impact, not only in that very area, but in the whole region and what it did. So, what you've done, and I just so thoroughly enjoy all the creativity and the persistence, because that's exactly what you were referring to the length of the projects that end up being undertaken. So thank you very, very much, and I know that you're going to have a great time in your next endeavors, but and we'll continue on all the fun things here, right?
And I don't know why you didn't say Road Handlers Hall of Fame. I mean, is there a reason? I'm not going to make any other Hall of Fame. I made that one.
That's right. Y'all come on up for a picture, Kelly?
Sure.
It's all right.
Yeah, come on back in, too.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, come on. Yeah. We're going to sit down if they're going to stand.
Still say Mo's leaving because of Luke 9.
The reality is, I mean, just put everything together, the guy is ready to go.
Okay, so we just
Yeah, he ain't ready, Luke 9.
No, what is it? Stand up and listen. All right.
John Mears, did we get that check from Mo for regards to that acquisition?
Oh, man, they won't let you alone.
Take care of yourself.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Big shoes to fill, no pressure.
The next three resolutions, and before I do the resolution, Rick Lesberg and City of Lancaster and I are waiting for an international phone call this morning. I reminded them when we were here for the last year and a half, we've been working on this presentation, and hopefully we are going to hear today that we've got a $500 million international company moving into Lancaster and Wilmer. That board they got a little different time slots, so they're meeting on this Juneteenth. And I really want to talk about, just for a second, this 1865 date. It was really from 1619 to 1865 that the institution of slavery in this country lasted 246 years. It's interesting that America, in the Declaration of Independence this year, will only celebrate 242 years. A guy named Jeff Sessions said back in February at the National Sheriff's Association quarterly roundup, and I want to quote him. He says, "Since our founding, the independent elected sheriff has been the people's protector who keeps law enforcement close to and accountable to the people through the elected process. The office of sheriff is a critical part of the Anglo-American heritage of law enforcement. We must never erode this historic office." But Coretta Scott King said that there's not any difference between Bull Connor and Judge Jeff Sessions. One did it with billy clubs and water hoses, and the other does it with media. Nothing has changed. It's Juneteenth, 2018. Texas got 2.5 years extra labor out of people from the institution of slavery. And thank God for Gordon Granger, who finally figured out how to navigate through Galveston to get here to deliver the proclamation. That being said, Donna, we're going to try to deliver one to you today. So is Donna Arnold here? Come on up, Donna. Only somebody who has been at the county longer than I have.
How long you been here?
I've been here 40.
No, I know how long you've been. How long you been here, Donna?
44 years.
44 years.
Wow.
So you're the oldest, the
The longest serving, not the oldest. The longest serving. That was the longest serving.
The longest serving.
Congratulations on that. That's pretty cool.
Whereas Dallas County has been fortunate to have an exemplary employee whom their skills, dedication, and extraordinary talent serve the citizens of this county well. And whereas Donna Arnold is a native Texan born in Dallas, educated in the Dallas Independent School District, and is a proud graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School and later attended Brookhaven College in Dallas County. And whereas Donna Arnold came into the employ of Dallas County in June 1974 as a master file clerk in the detention section of the Sheriff's Department, progressed to the fiscal section as an accounting clerk in 1982, and moved to her present position in 1996 as a property evidence tech. And whereas Donna Arnold enjoys reading, cross-stitching, baking as hobbies, and distinguishes herself in the community by working with the Village Church Northway, where she helps to provide school supplies to children as a member of the American Business Women's Association, where she has been recognized for completing the Women as the 21st Century Business Leaders Certification. And whereas Donna Arnold is among Dallas County's longest-serving active employees with 44 years of service and has earned a reputation as an exceptional public service whose public professional record reflects that she has an outstanding work ethic and performs her work with dignity and honor. Therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby, with great pride, join with the family, friends, and co-workers of Donna Arnold as she assumes a well-deserved retirement after 44 years of dedicated service, and be it further resolved that her work on the job, in the church, and in the community serve as an outstanding example of good citizenship worthy of congratulation and emulation. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You gonna pull that mic up?
Not really, but
Thank you.
I thank you for letting me come here today. And now I want to ask the question, why does Dallas County not have a 40-year service pin?
We gotta get one.
We don't have one?
Could we send her one of those?
We will make one, right, Mr. Mark? And it'll be more than $50, we can guarantee you.
Price?
Yeah. Done it.
Okay.
You get cookies.
Okay, I agree. I should have one of those pens as well. Hell, I'm
He's
with,
now the second longest servant.
okay.
All right, then we brought you cookies, since I will get a 40-year service pin.
Oh, that is so nice.
Well,
If I would get a pin, you weren't going to get cookies.
yeah, okay. You're gonna get a pen.
You should have called me.
Nice pin.
I would have been sure the pen was
nicest pin we
ready.
could find.
Thank you so much. You're so kind.
Donna, when did the pin stop? What's the last one you got?
Oh, we haven't
The
done
last one I got was 30 years, because at 35, you had a choice between a watch or a pin.
And you took what?
You took the watch, but you didn't get both.
I didn't get either.
You're not an employee, Commissioner.
Yeah, okay.
Both.
Yeah, okay.
You're not an
Not
employee.
employed, then
We're not an
yeah,
employee.
okay.
We need to get both.
Need to
You
get
should have both the watch and
And watch it.
Work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that 30-year pin then.
Now I really feel bad. On top of that,
Say what you want to say.
I got goodness gracious.
Yeah, get a pen.
A nice one.
Well, she said she got it. She took the watch. See, she got the watch. Yeah. I at least want to see what the hell the watch looks like.
The watch is
It
still
doesn't look like
running.
yours.
Well, is the watch still running, Miss?
No big, no big, no big.
Turn your wrist, Greg.
Boy, the things you learn.
Okay.
That is a good.
That's nice.
Hey, thank you so much for the cookies. You gonna say some words?
Okay.
I just did say some words.
She did say something. She said,
He wants a pen.
I have enjoyed my time at Dallas County. It's been a real pleasure. It's been an experience. I've learned many things. Sometimes we stay because we really like the job. Sometimes we stay just to find out what happened next. There's been a few of those sheriffs
Yeah,
over
we
there.
understand that real well.
But it has been fun. And it hasn't really been so much work, because I always said if it wasn't fun, I wasn't doing it, and I don't believe in work. So, thank you.
Thank you
You
so
like your
much.
coat? You want your cookies?
delegation.
Get your whole delegation.
Yeah, delegation.
You can always burn the picture if you don't get the pen.
But I can't get the tickets back then.
Make sure you get the pen.
Okay. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Next, I want the delegation from UT Southwestern Medical Center, Lamb Clinic.
I want to hear you say it.
I've
I've been waiting all week for that.
Oh, yes.
I've
Let's
been
hear it.
practicing.
You're not going to say lamb, are you?
No, I'm going to do most of Lamb, but angio lymphanodes.
No,
Oh, come
no,
on.
failed the
Come on.
test.
Let's hear it how it's really spelled.
Doctor, help us out here.
Okay, yeah, help us out here.
Yeah, say the word.
Say the word, because Commissioner didn't get it on the first, he failed the test.
Lymphangiomyomatosis.
That's what it meant.
But lamb is easier.
Now, we want Carol to spell
Next
that.
time, call me. Next time, I give you a resolution.
Can you say it? Say it for us.
Lymphangiomatosis.
I didn't understand it.
Was I correct, Doctor?
That was Greek to me.
Okay.
But go with lamb.
Where's Lamb? Is a rare neoplastic disease affecting primarily women, usually of a young age and during their childbearing years. It is estimated that 2,000 U.S. women have been diagnosed with LAM, although scientific analysis suggests that approximately 250,000 women worldwide might have the disease but undiagnosed. The disease is frequently fatal, with development of destructive lung cysts that lead to progressive airway obstruction. And whereas the LAM Foundation seeks to help improve the care and treatment of all LAM patients by developing regional clinics throughout the world to focus LAM care to medical institutions or hospitals that have the interest and expertise to deliver the state-of-the-art, coordinated, multidisciplinary LAM care and research. And whereas the LAM Foundation over the past 22 years has raised more than $25 million and directed the majority to research, which has been leveraged to $50 million in funding from other sources, including the National Institutes of Health, which has created 3 significant breakthroughs: the identification of a LAM gene, a powerful diagnostic biomarker, and the first treatment for LAM. And whereas the UT Southwestern Medical Center LAM Clinic is one of the 33 LAM Foundation clinical sites in the nation, and one of the 2 sites in the state of Texas. And since its designation in September of 2010, the UT Southwestern LAM Clinic has provided a diverse team of specialists providing an array of diagnostic and therapeutic services for more than 40 unique patients with LAM. And whereas the UT Southwestern Medical Center LAM Clinic has been recognized by the LAM Foundation as meeting the criteria for accurate diagnosis and treatment of the disease, as well as managing its many complications. The LAM team consists of pulmonologists, radiologists, pathologists, interventional radiologists, and cardiac surgeons. These specialists are supported by respiratory therapists, nutritionists, and physical therapists, which provide a full range of services to their patients. And whereas the UT Southwestern Medical Center's LAM Clinic is currently participating in the multi-center international durability and safety of sirolimus in LAM trial, called the MIDAS trial. This study is an observational registry studying and hoping to enroll 300 LAM patients who are on, have previously taken, or considering starting or sirolimus or everolimus for treatment of LAM, with a close follow-up of lung function tests and recording an adverse event for at least 2 years. Therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court designated the month of June officially as Worldwide LAM Awareness Month by the Worldwide LAM Patient Coalition and the Dallas County Commissioners Court, and be it further resolved that the WW-LAM and UT Southwestern Medical Center LAM Clinic continues to lead the global community in a collaborative effort to educate the world about the signs and symptoms of LAM and share its achievements to inspire researchers and clinicians to optimize therapies to find the cure for LAM. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Doctor?
Thank you, Commissioner Price. Thank you, Judge Jenkins, and all commissioners and the court today for bringing the theme of LAM and the Worldwide LAM June month for awareness of this rare disease. Although rare, it attacks young women, as Commissioner Price mentioned in the resolution, women in childbearing age with a disease that slowly destroys the lung with cyst formation. proud to represent UT Southwestern and the Lamb Foundation as one of the sites and one of 2 sites in the state of Texas. The research that's been conducted in Lamb affects other diseases that are also rare, that when you present to the emergency room, most physicians won't even know the treatment or the diagnosis of the disease. So having a specialized center is so important, since it leads to either lung transplantation or more complications related to it. So I thank the judge, county judge, the Commissioner Price for allowing me to be here in representation of UT Southwestern and the Lamb Clinic. It's based here in Dallas, so we're proud of it. Thank you.
Well, I became aware of Lamb because a staff member of mine has the disease. And
It's a horrible disease.
so I became aware. What's real difficult to do is to find, as the resolution said, and as you've said, individuals who can treat individuals with this. And so it is a real challenge. There are various forms of it, and just so happens she's not in the real, what we call aggressive form. And Ruben, thank you, Ms. Jessica Bell, for being here. But I appreciate this. It's just amazing to me how few people know anything about the disease, and how really devastating it can be. Yeah.
Well, thank you to UT Southwestern, Mr. Esquivel. It's always great to see you, and thank you for all the advancements that you're doing researching, because, we don't have a cure for so many of these diseases. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
Also, Mr. Estrada, hanging in the background there, just what it is that UT Southwestern does for the whole community, for the world, is so appreciated. Thanks for your efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the final resolution is,
Do they want a picture?
yes,
Okay,
I'm
sure.
sorry, excuse me. Okay, so Lamb
There we go.
Foundation wants to, y'all, come on around. Here you go. No, come on around, come on around, come on around, either way.
The Lamb Foundation has agreed to put the resolution and this vote on the website.
We'll pull the mic down.
Drawing directives from the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rubén. Un abrazo,
And my last resolution is about the competency court. Judge Kennedy, I saw a number of people here, the delegation. She had
Judge
approached
Collins.
me about this, and whoever else, Judge Collins, the public defender's office, Vicki, I see you sitting over there. Yeah, come on.
How can I say
Whereas
this?
the Commissioners Court of Dallas County find it in the best interest of the citizens of Dallas County that the competency court, as established on October 1st, 2007, now includes a felony track to be established as a mental health court pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 121, or under former law. And whereas Dallas County agrees that the competency court, which was previously recognized to supervise and handle misdemeanor competency cases, specifically supervising the misdemeanor outpatient competency restoration, or more commonly known as the OCR program, now also includes a felony track that supervises felony OCR cases and functions as a certified mental health specialty court. And whereas Dallas County Competency Court serves to monitor and supervise previously adjudicated individuals who have been found incompetent to stand trial and who may be appropriate to engage in the outpatient competency restoration program in order to avoid commitment to a state hospital. The goal of the Competency Court is to assist individuals in regaining competency out in the community while connecting them to community-based treatment in order to aid them in avoiding state hospital commitment, to aid them in a quicker disposition or alternative disposition of their criminal case, and to aid them in the stabilization and in the community to reduce recidivism. And whereas the Competency Court is operational through the roles of collaborative partnership with key stakeholders, including presiding judges Christian Wade and Judge Nancy Kennedy, and the Dallas County Public Defender's Office, and the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, and the Dallas County Criminal Justice Department, the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority, Metro Care Services, Child and Family Guidance Center, and Integrated Psychotherapeutic Services. And whereas Dallas County will continue to support the Competency Court as it continues to serve and adhere to the mental health court key components in order to operate according to the best practices and enhance the quality of life for all citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court approves the inclusion of the felony track under the Competency Court and encourages the continuance of its effectiveness and the value to the Dallas County Criminal Court system. And I so move.
And I proudly second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Judge?
Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner Price, Judge Jenkins, Commissioner Daniel, Commissioner Garcia, and Commissioner Cantrell. I'd like to say that the intersection of mental health and our criminal justice system is at a critical juncture. At a time like no other, the criminal justice system has been called upon to address the mental health needs of those accused. As many of you know, in January of 2017, there was no centralized felony competency program. The misdemeanor courts, under the direction of Judge Skemp, have been operating a centralized outpatient competency program for over 10 years. In my practice as a criminal defense attorney before taking the bench, I handled numerous cases where clients had a multitude of mental health issues. In March of 2017, with the assistance of the Criminal Justice Department, we started working together to establish a centralized felony outpatient competency restoration program. The year before, 7 people were restored competent doing outpatient services, and 4 were resolved with another disposition or an alternative disposition for a total of 11 people. In 2017, when we started this program, at the end of that year, 18 people were restored to competent in outpatient services, and an additional 6 were resolved in another manner for a total of 24. When you think about how long it can take someone to go from the jail to the hospital, it could be up to 300 days that they are waiting in our jail to get to a hospital bed. We intend to grow this program with the centralized judicial oversight that we have, and this resolution gives us that ability, so thank you. None of this would have been possible without the support and hard work of the Public Defender's Office and their commitment to mental health. I believe Lynn Richardson is here today, and that starts from the top, so thank you. Also, the District Attorney's Office and their commitment to their mental health division. They have staffed it appropriately, and we very much appreciate that, and they help us quite a bit. Also, we couldn't do it without the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority and Courtney Clemens, who is committed to the program, the providers, Metro Care, IPS, Child and Family Guidance, and of course, we could not do it without Judge Collins and Judge Wade's commitment to mental health and their leadership. Last but certainly not least, the Criminal Justice Department, under the direction of Charlene Randolph and the assistance of Laura Edmonds and Janine Capitello. And finally, thank you to Commissioner Price and to this honorable court for recognizing our hard work over the past year and your commitment to mental health services for those who are accused. Thank you. If anyone else would like to say something.
Judge?
Judge Collins?
Judge Collins?
Judge Collins?
Excited that you guys have finally decided to do this. It's something I've been hoping to see for many, many years. Before I was a judge, I was the only competency DA in Dallas County. I worked in 17 felony courts and 1 misdemeanor, and I'm very, very excited that Judge Kennedy and I have bifurcated this by floor. She does 7 and 5, and I do 6, and I'm very, very excited to be a part of this process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Before we get to our presentations, I got a text from Sean Rabb of Fox 4 over there, and he said at least y'all would cover this, and so if anyone who can cover this, let me take a quick moment of personal privilege because we really need your help getting the message out. And by the way, here's a copy of these for all the court members. We've got a big job fair coming up. Pass them this way. We've got a big job fair coming up. We have 69 employers, 3,000 jobs, and we've got employers excited, and they are desperate to hire folks, but we don't have a lot of people signed up to come to the job fair. So we need your help getting the word out so people can come claim a living wage job. We've got jobs, these are physical labor type jobs. We've got jobs at places like FedEx and Walmart as delivery drivers that are $25 an hour. We've got jobs as low as 10 to 12, not very many 10s, but a lot of 12s, dollars an hour for kids to be things like lifeguards and learn how to be pool cleaners for their summer jobs. Most of these jobs, though, are full-time jobs for adults. And so if a person is working now as a landscaper and they want to see if there's someone who will pay them $3 or $4 more an hour, because these companies are companies that will pay more money. We got this idea from a man who stopped me on the street to say he wanted to find people to be landscapers. I said, what do you pay? He said, I pay $15 an hour starting. We know there's a lot of people out there working in landscaping that didn't start at $15 an hour. So getting people who are working a raise by going to a different company is part of this. And then getting people who aren't currently employed working is another part of this. This job fair, and I don't like the word job fair because job fair makes me feel like getting dressed up for a blind date where you get disappointed. This is a job hookup, y'all. This is the Tinder of job fairs, okay?
Was that better than the
So you're going to get a job. You come out here, we're going to get you a job. So, all right, so this job fair is at the shed at the farmer's market from 9 to 12 this Thursday. That's at 920 South Harwood. There's limited free parking, but there's parking around there, and it's accessible by the D-line on DART. So I'll be there. Workforce Solutions will be there. Really want to encourage anyone who's looking for a job or a raise who works outside. This is the Some Like It Hot Job Hookup. Come see us. Thank y'all very, very much for doing something with that. All right, thank you, Sean, for reminding me of that. All right, so our first presentation is from Ganesh at Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We've got 3 quick points in our preparedness effort. The first one is that we see the Abuela surveillance report here that reports 3 positive West Nile virus traps that came positive, so 3 of them so far. We have sprayed in 2 different areas. Dallas County Health and Human Services has deployed their services in 2 areas for spraying of the 3 traps.
2 of those were in Box Springs?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Where's the third one?
There's one in Irving,
Irving.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the city of Irving, of course, responded to that. We are ongoing with our testing. We have done about 3,000 plus of mosquito trap testing so far. Our lab continues to do that day in and day out. If you go to the slide, yes, that slide. After last Commissioners Court discussion, one of the things we did was go back to the drawing board in terms of the back-to-school immunizations. And what we did was look at historical data in terms of children that were immunized after the start of the school year. So we went back 10 years, did a data search on which areas that these children came from. And so we mapped it. If you go to the next slide, before, yeah, that one. We mapped it on the Dallas County map, and we came up with 10 zip codes in which these children were basically residing in. So our effort is to mobilize to these different zip codes. We're going to find partners in these areas. And then along with about 9, if you look at the left-hand schedule, we have 9 events, special clinics for back to school, spread from May all the way through the middle part of August. Aside from those special clinics, we are going to hit these different zip codes.
How are we getting the word out, Mr. Shelvermeyer, with regards to those locations? I know during the flu epidemic, I know we kind of went in stages and had some success, but this immunization thing is it's a little different. I'm looking at all of those centers.
Right.
How did you wind up with those particular locations?
Those locations, basically, like I said, we went back 10 years, looked at records for 10 years of children coming in for immunizations after the start of the school year.
Okay, so you got, okay.
Yeah,
so
we got some real concrete data on that.
Okay.
And then we mapped it on the,
Okay.
And, to answer your question, we will have a campaign to get the word out on these, once these locations have been identified.
Okay.
And then we'll start mobilizing.
Okay, good work.
And throughout the 9 different special clinics that we have, the schedule you see on the left-hand side, we will be spreading that word as well. Back to school mayors, that's a big one that we're going to do. And, the DeSoto, that's a big clinic there. So
Okay.
we'll be getting the word out through, social media, other means of information. Actually, yes,
Because the
Commissioner
last
Nari?
item on there is the back-to-school immunization mobilization clinics are to be determined.
Right, and that's what we're going to do is these are the 10 zip codes we identified. We're going to find partners because there are a lot of agencies that will host us, so we can park a mobile clinic there and start doing the immunizations. Until those partners are identified, we just want to call it TBD, and then hopefully in the forthcoming Commissioners Court meetings, I'll be able to present which ones have been identified, and then we can go from there.
And that'll be based on your past data on where kids are and
That's
where
right.
the need is.
That's exactly right. And in fact, to answer Commissioner Price's question, that was what we said. We went back to those areas where children came back after the start of the school
After the
year.
start of school
Yes, we
year.
looked at that data, yeah.
Right.
Yes. I shouldn't have gone, if you can go a couple of slides before this, I want to just, one slide before, yeah, that's it. So just going back to the West Nile virus, we invited about 250 organizations that were basically faith-based organizations that cater to the older adults, Dallas County offices, the City of Dallas Recreation. And so what we did was we sent the webinar information out, and we conducted a live webinar this past Friday, giving out the entire scope of the mosquito-borne illness disease in terms of, what these mosquitoes are, how do they breed, what to look for, the 4 Ds, what is Dallas County doing, and what can the citizens do to protect themselves. So we did a webinar. It's actually there in the website. We can go back. It's a recorded webinar for those that were not able to participate. So we got it out to about 250 organizations. And of course, we urge these organizations to share this with their members So we have large churches, faith-based organizations. We have a huge, large number of agencies that cater to older adults. The senior citizens, basically based organizations like Senior Source and such, that can get this word out through this webinar. So that's an effort we took, especially to address the West Nile virus and mosquito-borne illness. Again, and the last quick point is we've started to do surveillance on the heat-related illnesses. We've noticed about 151 reported so far. That it's a combination of heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. No deaths so far. And of course, in preparing for this, the heat, we have, of course, the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program we run to help people with their utility bills. We also have a heat hotline set up to help individuals with chilled air for air conditioning, window air conditioners, through donated window air conditioners. And of course, City of Dallas has partnered with Reliant in opening some cooling shelters for those individuals that need to go during the daytime to get reprieve from the heat. And Reliant is, of course, putting together a program for them that includes some snacks, some activities while these individuals are at the shelter. So it's a very good effort. This goes from start of June through end of September. And we did a press release with Dallas County participated in that press release with Reliant and City of Dallas to basically let individuals know that these cooling shelters have been opened. Those are MLK, of course, and then the West Dallas Multipurpose
Is
Center.
it only within the city of Dallas, then?
Come again?
What about the other parts of Dallas?
These are the 2 cooling shelters that have been opened, so it's limited only the folks that participated in that. And
Yeah, that's not us. City of Dallas does it. I mean, other cities are not doing it. And so,
There's a little spot in Garland I know that we could use. It's called RMB1.
we can, if you want to talk offline, we'll definitely
but
get that
keep in
going.
mind now,
Yes.
we're not doing that. That's them.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's,
so if
that's,
Garland wants to open it up, fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really a Dallas County initiative. It's just, we just partnered with them to say that, we can give them information. The thing that we do, Commissioner Daniel, of course, is the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program, where people can get their lights bill paid and of course, their
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you so much.
And thank you for responding as well, because we have been getting a lot of those telephone calls about weatherization and
Yes.
units going out, and you have been responding, so I want to thank you. With judicial management is up next, Judge, in terms of presentation. Well, my problem is I've got judges who are here who had courts that they took their jurors and told their jurors, that they were going to be by a certain time, 10:45. Hell, I've got 3 or 4 presentations. So I mean, she didn't know she was going to have speaking
She
engagements.
actually did email both Judge Birmingham and myself requesting that. So
When?
immediately during court last session. So during court last session, I sent the email out to her, and she asked for a 10:45 time certain.
But did we know that?
I didn't know.
I'm not sure. I know Justin Lord and I talked about it. I don't know if I shared it with the court, but this is what she asked me specifically for it.
Yeah.
Well, can we have one of the other presentations first?
Well, but the problem is I got judges here
No, I
who
get it.
have
Yeah,
court
same
court
thing.
dockets.
Let's have the judges who are here, because it's not the exact same thing as Judge Johnson.
Right.
Let's do that. If we don't quite get done, we'll come back to Judge Johnson when she gets here. Let's just move
No,
along.
it's all pretty much the same, because I mean, when you look at the rules of administration for Dallas criminal district courts, and the district courts giving preference to criminal cases pursuant to the government code 74.093, it's all the same.
Which Judge Johnson are you talking about?
I'm talking
Big
about
jump, the DA.
Oh,
The
the
DA.
DA.
The DA. I'm sorry.
Is the administrative judge here? Local administrative judge?
I don't think,
On the email, so he will probably show up about the same time that Judge Johnson was. Those were the two who specifically were addressing the issue from last court. So
Well,
those are the
yeah.
two that I sent the email
well,
to.
yeah, I'd ask, because of the judicial management and the concerns after, especially after having read the rules, you know, I'd ask some other people to show up with regards to timelines and.
Well, let's start.
Yeah.
Are the other
We
people
can
here?
talk forever, so I mean.
Are the other people here, Commissioner?
Let me just say that's my fault, because I didn't know that you were coordinating with other judges, so I take responsibility for that, because I specifically just wanted to make sure Judge Birmingham and the DA Johnson were going to be here. Those are
So
the two
both of
that-
them got speaking engagement?
I'm not sure about Judge
Yeah,
Birmingham,
right.
but I think they wanted to be here at the same time.
Commissioner, are
because
the
of
other people
discussion.
here?
Yes.
Yes. And I know Judge Kennedy was here earlier, and I know Judge Givens Davis is here,
Terry Young is here too.
and then the public news office. Well, you know, my concerns are that we've got a copy of the rules of administration for Dallas criminal district judges, as I said, pursuant to 74.093. So my concern is, based on what I proffered the last time, is are they following the local rules regarding the assignment of these criminal cases? Because as I read their rules, I'm having some real trepidation in rules 1.1, 2.2, and 2.213. So I guess what I would ask is, you know, whether it's Carrie, whomever it is, were you following your own rules with the assignment of these cases? And if you were, then I want to know, why wasn't the cases assigned to the same court?
You're going to need the administrative judge here to be able to answer that.
But Terry Young also.
Well, I got Judge Davis. Let me-
An email was sent this week from Judge Birmingham that he is not attending.
Yeah, right, and before judges speak, let me make sure everybody understands
Hold on.
the canons of ethics.
Well, canons of
I didn't get that
ethics.
email.
Look, did Judge, did
I
he-
didn't get that email.
You didn't, oh, see, he didn't get that email.
I didn't get that email.
So, yeah, let me, I had a conversation with Judge Molberg yesterday evening, who actually is the top person over this, the LADJ judge that's ultimately responsible for these assignments. There were conversations.
Oh, hold on. Judge Molberg?
There were conversations. He's over all judges on their hierarchy of what they elect.
He's not over the assignments to the courts.
If you'll just let me finish with what he wants us to know. In conversations with the Judicial Conduct Commission, they referred judges to the canon that instructs them to not speak about cases that are currently pending in their court.
I'm not talking about cases.
All right? The cases that we're talking about are currently pending in two courts. For this reason, Judge Molberg and Judge Birmingham feel they cannot come and talk about those two cases.
They can tell me whether or not the process was followed.
And
That's
on-
all I'm asking.
And on that, what Judge Molberg tells me is that he reviewed it and that he is satisfied that the process was followed.
Well, he's not here. And
Not here to speak publicly about that because of a concern about a written canon of ethics where judges
Can't talk about cases.
are not to go out and talk about cases.
I'm talking about process. I'm talking about process.
And-
I
understand,
basically
but- and
lodged a complaint
I
that
understand.
they are forum shopping. That is process.
And what I'm not telling you that you can't get up and give speeches about your
I don't want
beliefs.
to give no speech. I want to ask questions. I got questions.
What I'm telling you is
Carry
they
on.
won't be here because of the canons of ethics and the.
Okay, so Carrie Young is here. Where's Carrie Young? I thought they said Carrie Young was here.
Yes.
Okay,
Isn't he here?
I guess he got up.
I didn't see.
I never saw him.
Because he is the one in charge of the report of all the, cases, the way they're assigned.
Who is? Kerry Young?
Yeah, isn't it?
No, hell no, he's not. No, see, that's what I'm
What
saying.
about the report? I mean,
What report?
the report, the minutes that the judges have in their internal discussions.
But he's not in charge now. He may
No.
have, that's all.
Obviously,
Ju-
that report has, the assignments.
Well, are we going to talk about this process and why, based on their rules, 74.093, they were not followed? That's all I want. That's all I want to talk about. They were not followed, regardless of which case or cases. The rules were not followed, and so are we going to, Judge Davis? Are you going to be in a position to tell me, first of all, y'all I guess promulgated these rules under 7493 of the government code. Is that correct?
Yes, and Commissioner Price, I will tell you that the same canons that County Judge Clay Jenkins has mentioned, I am too familiar with, but there's an additional canon, and that canon states that as a judge, you have a duty to educate the community about the legal process, and so that's why I'm here today, to talk about this process. I am not speaking specifically about cases, and I think that's why it's problematic that we would bifurcate this conversation, because it's my understanding that D.A. Johnson is going to come here today and present to you a medical examiner that will explain why they filed the latter case when they did. So I think it's problematic to have two separate conversations about this matter, because it's not separate issues. I will tell you that in 2009, there were allegations made by presiding judges at that time that the cases were not being fairly distributed. Because of those allegations, then they created a new assignment, and that took place in October of 2009. And in fact, after the assignment, Judge Burns, who was then the LADJ, sent out an email and said, when you become aware, it did not say when cases are filed by the DA's office. It said, when you become aware of the case, please call me or my court coordinator. He said, call or email. It's an October 1st, 2009 email. And so the purpose of that was people were accused of crimes and over at the county jail, and members of the press were making contact with them, and they didn't have attorneys to advise them because of the lag time. And so the process was to ensure that we protect those that are accused of crimes and not yet convicted from making comments to the public that would hinder their case. So fast forward to most recently, and again, this is not about the substance of the cases. I too understand my obligation to the community, but I think that's another reason why I must be here today as well. So I received a phone call from a judge, and since we've named names, we'll just be all out in the open. This is a very popular thing for me to do today, by the way. There's a culture at Frank Crowley, and that culture promulgates silence at times when you're not a member of the majority speaking on an issue. But that's okay, because it's always the right time to do the right thing.
There you go.
I received a phone call from Judge Burns, and he laid everything out to me because he was there in 2009 when they addressed the first issue. And he said, it's still going on, Judge. Now the DA's office has found a way to hold certain cases, hold some murder cases as filler cases, so that when they come up to a court that they don't want to assign a case to, they can file those filler murder cases. These are not my words, and please don't attribute them to me. I can show you the evidence of the conversation. However, I want it to be clear that this is not about a 282nd versus a 292nd battle. This is about what we owe Dallas County, and the fact that these individuals are not just case numbers. They are people that are cloaked in the presumption of innocence. And if we find that forum shopping is happening, then shame on us for being too scared to stand up against everybody to address it. Beyond the information provided by Judge Burns, First Assistant Mike Snipes admitted to 2 presiding judges, Fargo and Kennedy, that he had manipulated that assignment. Twice, on 2 separate days, he made that statement. Now, on the 3rd day in a meeting, he retracted that statement. But I would ask you, how many of you all have ever made statements of such a nature and they weren't true? Why would you say something like that if it weren't true? And in a recently generated report, it said that a mythical judge, the judge is not named, a mythical current presiding judge was able to persuade Judge Snipes that it had happened. So based on that mythical conversation, he repeated it twice. And I say mythical because in the rest of the report, everyone's named. But this one particular judge who convinced Judge Snipes to make such statements is not named.
When you say mythical, you mean unnamed?
It's not named.
I'm going to stick with mythical.
Okay, now mythical means like made up.
I don't know. I don't know.
She said it's in the report.
But that would be a person, if it's in the report, it actually happened. You just don't know the name of the person. Is that right?
Right. Judge Jenkins, I think it might just be a matter of semantics, but based on my experience in this situation, I'm going to use the word mythical.
Okay, well, mythical means it didn't happen. So is that what you're saying? It didn't happen?
Well, now Judge Snipes is saying he didn't mean it. He didn't manipulate.
He was saying it probably did happen.
But that he did it.
He said twice that he did it. And so that's what drove my participation in the quote-unquote investigation, because speaking for myself, I would never make such statements if I hadn't actually carried out the action. And so beyond that, we have in fact changed the process, because in many...
Change the process when?
We changed the process in our last judges meeting.
Good. That last judges meeting was when?
Which was June 7th.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Did you randomize it so that they can't count anymore?
Well, we have instituted a system of balls, lottery balls.
Perfect.
Okay, but
Is judge assignment a random assignment?
it will be now,
It wasn't.
and so it will not
Or
be.
wasn't it a chronological assignment?
Right. So you,
Let her explain.
That's what it was supposed to be. And I say this because behind closed doors, we say a lot of things. I happen to be the same person in private that I am in public. And so I am going to just confirm for you that many judges have stated that the system has been manipulated, not specific to this case per se, but that we know that there's a history of this manipulation. And that dates back to 2009, and prior to 2009, you wouldn't keep addressing the potential manipulation if there wasn't some proof that it was happening. And then along with statements that I understand now are being retracted. And I do have a colleague present, Judge Kennedy.
but Judge, what you're alleging now is not what Judge Mulberg looked into and what the audit looked into. What the audit looked into was whether or not the judge who assigned the cases in the arraignment order of the murder under your old rules. What you're talking about is the DA's office counting and filing in such a way as to forum shop and get the judge that they want, which I'm not saying the DA did that, but that's the scheme that you're talking about now,
Not
correct?
necessarily. Let her present. That's the reason I called her. These two ladies, they've been in, at Frank Crowley High. They're the ones that have been kind of, outside in terms of what's going on over there. And let her explain it. We don't.
That's what I'm doing. I'm asking that question.
They're
What you're
both
talking
related.
about now is accounting forum shopping, right?
They're
Timing.
both related. They're not disjointed. That was the issue, that process was not working.
I agree with that, but you're not saying that you disagree with the audit report and that
Oh, I
the
disagree.
judge.
Sure she is.
You are saying that.
Judge Jenkins, I think you have to come visit us at Frank Crowley sometime, and we can, walk you around and show you how things work.
Well,
Not saying that we're not law-abiding and upholding folks, but what I'm telling you is sometimes things happen that no one wants someone to stand in a public room and talk about, is my point. So I've
So you
said
do
what I've said.
disagree with your audit then?
I'm sorry, I was not privy to an audit.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand what the theory is.
But
The
you
theory
keep
earlier was,
injecting stuff. She just said she's not privy to an audit. What
what
audit
I'm
you
understanding is I understand that Mollberg looked at an audit and was satisfied that the judge.
Who did the audit?
Based on what.
Who did the audit? Who performed the audit?
My understanding was it was a staff attorney. I had the name, but I don't remember the name.
Staff attorney for whom? For whom?
I believe it was your staff attorney, was it not?
So you got the Fox saying, hey, I'm going to count the eggs. And then
Got her staff attorney doing an audit.
No, he works with all 17 of us.
So that person that
And we
works with all 17 of you.
determined, Judge Jenkins, that was improper for him to do an investigation, but it was conducted anyway. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. So,
But
and I'm not trying to argue with you.
No,
I'm
and
trying to
Judge Jenkins,
understand your theory.
I don't think you are, and I think we should clear one thing up, that this, and I'm not speaking about the substance of it, but this is not about bail reform. We currently have a lawsuit pending, so we won't be able to talk about that. But understand that Judge Birmingham is doing nothing alone. It's a collective.
I understand there's a clash there between some of the judges. Right, I get that. But I'm just trying to understand the theory of this.
What do you mean, class?
There's not a complete alignment between some of the judges. And I don't want to disparage any of you. That's just the way it is.
This is about process. This is not
the
personality.
process that you're talking about is the process of when the DA files their cases, when the DA arraigns murders, right?
Well, I want to be clear that individuals that are accused by crimes, their constitutional rights are not triggered by the DA's office filing a case. By code, their rights are triggered by their arrest. So it does not matter when the DA's office files a case. If you go over to...
But arrest can't be forum shopping. I'm trying to get back to what you're here for.
Just let her finish.
So, Judge Jenkins, an individual, we have dry writ days. What does that mean? That means that you could theoretically be in custody at Frank Crowley and not have a charge filed. That doesn't mean that at that time you're not entitled to counsel, however. So people's constitutional rights are triggered by their arrest, has nothing to do with the filing date. We have a dry writ of 30 days, so it means that they have to file the case within 30 days, but by then they've already been appointed to a court, appointed to counsel. So those things really, the arrest date is what's key.
No, I totally agree with you.
Okay, let her finish.
Still get back to my
Continue,
questions.
Judge.
I don't want to hog the mic from my
Judge
colleague.
Kennedy.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
So what I will say is this. I think many people know that I choose my words very carefully, and I am not going to specifically comment on any particular procedure or process in this particular forum. However, I do want to, many people have said it much better than me a long, long time ago. And I'm going to read this, so please just bear with me. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And that was in a letter by Dr. Martin Luther King from the Birmingham jail. And I say that quote, and I read that to you because in the position that we're in, even the appearance of impropriety alone, whether or not it happens or not, the appearance of impropriety alone, if we stay silent about that, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So as long as I'm in a position, I know as long as Judge Givens Davis is in a position to address any even appearance of impropriety, we are going to do it in the appropriate forum. We have done it. The system has been changed to a system that is no longer predictable.
On June the 7th, but since we've raised that issue here. Now, what I find curious is in Lubbock County and other counties, you know, they've had systems that I guess we've come to now in June 7th. I don't know about the lottery balls, but they had a system that basically did the kind of assignment that I guess we have arrived at finally. Is that what I'm hearing?
We believe so.
Okay.
And we will continue to do everything that we can from our positions in our judicial system to make sure there is no appearance of impropriety, and if there is, we will correct it.
Well, judges are, I'll yield to you, but judges are supposed to be, and I appreciate both of you in terms of, you know, of the courage, because judges are supposed to be the arbiter of the fact. You're not supposed to be, wed to any system or to any individuals or to any so-called, political trains. You are supposed to be arbiter of the facts, and as you so eloquently stated, Judge Davis, you're supposed to be about the constitutional rights and weigh the facts, and that's it. Since we brought this together, you basically said that it's changed, because prior to this, my questions were going to be, why wasn't the case assignment, based on these rules? Now, are these the new rules that I have under 74093? These are still the same rules, correct?
I don't know what you have there in your hand, sir.
I've got.
When did you get them, Commissioner Pryor?
I got these last week. But these are the rules they've been governing themselves by. This is where you file the same case. It follows. I mean, you talk about that, cases that have been filed in the same court. Eventually, it talks about capital murder cases. These are rules that you've.
Those are local rules, or there's?
These are local rules that have been officer.
Would those, after your meeting in June 7, what you're saying is those rules will be better enforced? Because obviously those are the rules that have always been there, Commissioner Price. I don't
Well, I agree. No. I think
if they weren't followed before, why will June 7 meeting will make us feel that they're going to be followed now?
Here's the difference. The old way we did it was when
The
murders.
rules are the same rules.
When murders came up, it was sequential. So the lower number first, the higher number second, and on up it goes. And there were a couple of provisos if somebody had gotten 2 or 3 defendants the time before and they get skipped. But it allowed, not that this, I'm not accusing anyone, but it allowed for, as Justin said 2 weeks ago, they can count like everybody else can. It allowed people to count and say, okay, if my person is gravely injured, and I'll decide when I'm going to file my suit after their death, and if I do it just right, maybe I can time something. I'm not saying that happened here. The difference that they're doing now with the balls is it'll still be each time through, every 17 will be up. Each of the 17 judges will be up. But since, for instance, Judge Givens' ball might be 3 this time through, but it's 9 next time through, and it's 7 next time through, and there's no way for anyone to know in the DA's office, because, and I'm not accusing the DA's office, it just happens that in the criminal
Who's in
system.
charge of the balls, hell? Who got the balls? That's what that bothers me.
Would be the administrative judge,
Huh?
wouldn't it?
Well, that's what but he had the
charge of the ball.
He had the books. He had the books too.
Oh, he had the books.
Yeah. So who has the balls?
So in line with my statement that I feel my oath and the canons do require that I educate the community about the law and certain processes, I will answer that the balls are rotating. if that makes sense. There's 17 felony courts. One rotation is 17 assignments. And then once that rotation is finished, it will go on to the next court. And then the next court. What's happening, the cases are still going to the presiding judge because with IT and all, it'd be difficult to have the case assignments change. But then ultimately, the presiding judge's court coordinator lets us know that there's a new assignment. And the judge that has the lotto balls pulls and sends an email to everyone to let us know who received the case.
Is that judge the only one that knows who's assigned to that particular number on that ball?
Yes.
That's what it sounds like. Which is the same
That
problem.
judge could pull any ball they want to with they know who the ball belongs to.
We are working with Craig Morrissey, believe, for a technical solution to this, but I believe prior in 2009 that wasn't practical resolution. So we're hoping that the lotto ball situation carries us over until we can get a more high-tech.
But tell me your comfort level with those dadgum lotto balls. I mean, I just want to know. You know, in Tarrant County, I know what they do. I know what they do in Lubbock County. These people have a different solution. In fact, the judges don't get a chance. Somebody else does it. I mean, it's a whole.
Take it out of the judge's hands and put it in
It's a
somebody
whole
that's neutral and.
It's a whole different group.
And Judge, here's a.
Wait a minute. Is that the way they do it? Does anybody familiar with the Tarrant County and Lubbock County way of doing it?
It doesn't matter, we cannot do it.
Who?
The administrator's office handles the assignment of cases.
Exactly.
I mean, the court.
The court. No. In
That
which
would
county?
be you, Mr. Mark.
In Tarrant County? So that's you.
PK?
Yeah. So you looking at
That'd be up to the judges whether they wanted to give that power over.
I got it.
I'm going to volunteer. They can let me do the assignment.
Thank you, Commissioner Cantwell.
And judges who are here and judges who are watching online, a recommendation that I made a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure if it's free advice, but go ahead and have someone, if there's people that maybe want to all be there to watch the ball pull, but it'd be better if someone did all this and wrote out the numbers of where people were on the sheet, all 17, and knew that, and that was kept, and everyone could, and it was, given to the court administrator, but it was kept until such, and by court administrator, I mean the administrator for the presiding judge, or maybe the LADJ, somebody else, so everybody can trust it. And then, after you go through the 17, if anybody has a question, they can see where they were in the order. You don't want to have everybody watch the ball and everybody know where they are. If there's a theory that someone's going to be colluding with someone else, you hadn't really gotten anything if word can get out that you're number 9 this time and number 4 the next time. But if you draw the balls ahead of time as opposed to just drawing one out at a time, and you write it down somewhere and give it to a safekeeper, it gets to be pretty impossible for people to game the system, because when they allegedly game it, you can ask to look at it and you can catch them gaming it.
Well, we're going to talk about, after this, the millions of dollars that we're spending on technology, and you're telling me that we cannot handle this stuff electronically. They do it in the civil and the family court.
Sure do.
Right now. See, this is bull court. Okay? So now talking about gaming, all of this.
Have you asked, Charles, in that program that we purchased on the criminal side of it, do they have that to where it's in a case assignment? That's already, is it up and working?
Wait. The civil and the family court is up and working. Okay? So, all this other, shell game, the family and the civil court is up working electronically. And here we are talking about some damn bingo balls. Really? Really? I'm serious. That just tells somebody wants to hold control. Somebody wants to hold control. That's basically it.
Well, who has control of it?
have 4 or 5 murder cases at one time. That's the danger with even that,
But-
this county all 17.
But you do all 17, but you do it if you do it electronically, that's what we're doing on the civil and family side right now. That's what they're doing in I think Lubbock County. Lubbock County.
And in Tarrant County, it's done with the wheel, but it's done through the administrative court, so it's not done by the judges, so they're not holding the wheel. So.
You know.
Well, this is sad.
It is
kind
real
of
sad.
conversations, at this level.
It is sad. And the only reason that there was any attempt is because we bought it for, and now all of a sudden we're going to go to some balls. But everybody, here we are talking about technology. 2018, we're already doing it on one side of the street, but over here we're still talking about, like I said, either balls or writing it down on paper.
Well,
What had been done before?
Huh?
What had been done before the balls?
I just told you. That's what I brought up a couple of weeks ago. They write it down, making decisions.
It's just not interesting, right? Not the DA is here.
We do random assignments now with the wheel.
And do you do that?
Well, no, I mean,
Okay.
computer system does. The mainframe computer system.
Well, it's either time that we put the technology there, just like we're doing with Windows 7 to Windows 10, or, that the administrator, you, Mr. Markey,
But it's already there.
take
Major
it out
victim.
of the courts. I mean, if that's what it's going to take for us to
But
have a
it's
fair
over on the
system,
family.
it has to change.
Well, no, he's saying that, I understand, we're on the mainframe for the criminal side, but Ryan is saying the mainframe will randomly assign those cases. Major?
Well,
Victim.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm all for what the judges want. If the judges think that the process would be improved for them to concede control to the commissioner's court.
I'm not trying to take control. This is about public. I think she said if he was going, this is not about the commissioner's court.
Well, sure it is. If he's going to
No.
be the I know, I understand.
We're
I'm saying
asking,
I'm
do we
all for
have-
it if that's what they want.
Can the mainframe, until we get the court system up, can the mainframe randomly assign those cases?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it does now. I've asked Ms. Janice Nelson, who is over the AIS
Then why
mainframe
isn't
thing.
it doing it? Did the judges have to agree for that to happen?
So
Well, what the
so
heck?
currently,
What are we
we-
waiting on?
assignment, we have case assignment, but what happens is that all the murder cases was said to have to go to 292
There you
court.
go. There's your
So,
answer,
I mean,
right
we
there.
can take that out, but according to what was told is that those murder cases should go to the presiding judge, and then they assign them out.
They assign.
So from a system standpoint, we
Isn't
can do that.
Judges, the state law that murders will be
Why?
assigned sequentially?
I'm sorry,
Is
Judge.
there not a state law that requires that?
Judge, what I can tell you is that we're 2 of 17 district court judges, and it would take a majority of the judges to change the process.
Well, if they truly want to change the process and take any Mickey Mousing going on in it, then they need to have it randomly assigned. We don't need balls, and we draw them out and transfer them to 17 different people. That's ridiculous.
It is.
That's
But it just still said it didn't maintain, we've improved the system. So you went
So
from
how soon can y'all have a group meeting and vote and put it back in the system where it should be?
Yeah, you just went from spitballs to bingo balls.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Meet the first Thursday of every month.
Okay, and I know
And we
that
have to
those,
get-
and I know those minutes
There's your answer, right
are,
there.
pretty confidential, and we have absolutely no access. I believe they're also protected from open records requests. So our job, what we're trying to do is to help, to have a fair system. If I understood what both judges just mentioned, is you're willing to change the system. But there's very little we can do other than say that we're willing to help you with technology. That is already in other courts. But we can do very little if you all, 17, cannot get together and fix it yourself.
Well, I want to make sure, for the record, that everybody knows all cases are randomly assigned, except for murder cases, which the judges have pulled out in order to go to a certain court to be assigned by that judge.
In order
So
to
we
follow
can put
state
those
law
back.
on sequential,
Show me the state law, Judge.
we'll get it, it's Yeah. Do you have that state law, or you want to just?
Yeah, Ms. Richardson? Okay, please, please. Okay, that's fine.
Well, Ms. Johnson, you want to speak first?
No, I want to hear from Ms. Dean first.
Okay.
Commissioners, just for a moment, I would like to
Can
pitch.
you identify yourself for the
I'm
record?
Christy Dean. I'm Chief of the Capital Murder Division in the Dallas County Public Defender's Office. I have been canvassing public defenders' offices around the state, and I want to pitch the Managed Assigned Counsel Program, which is specifically contemplated by Article 2604 in the Code of Criminal Procedure, and that is what is working in Lubbock, Commissioner Price. That's what they have in Lubbock. That's what they have in Travis County. Everybody's happy with it, and what happens is it's taken out of the judge's hands both the assignment to the court and the vetting of the attorneys who are qualified to receive the different gradations of cases.
So there's not a state statute that prevents that?
Absolutely not. There's a state statute that discusses it, and the program that's been pioneered in Lubbock so successfully is pioneered by Jim Bethke. And I'm sure that he would be a fountain of information if Dallas wanted to pursue a similar program. And to me, it seems to make sense and remove all of the murkiness that we've had, because I personally feel like the Ball situation obfuscates transparency. And we're at the highest echelon of cases. Some of these cases are going to be death penalty cases. And we have a lack of transparency on how these cases are getting assigned even to the courts, much less to which attorneys. So I just wanted to say that I have been doing some research on this, and I would suggest if there's any major change in the works, that a managed assigned counsel program be considered for Dallas County, and that is contemplated in 2604 of the Code of Criminal Procedure.
Have y'all generated, I'm not trying to tell you how to do the work of the public defender's office, have y'all generated that up to them with regards to concerns?
Up to the judges?
Yeah.
No, not, I have literally done this over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
The judges need to meet and make a decision.
No, I got it, but apparently they when they around there talking about bingo balls, hell, they must not be, again, aware of 2604. That's the thing is, if we hadn't pushed it forward, if these two judges hadn't been courageous, if we hadn't had somebody come and do just what we're talking about here, hell, we wouldn't be discussing it. And we keep talking, you use those little words like, but transparency. So bingo balls gonna make it transparent.
But why was the change suggested in the first place? Why were the murder cases taken out of the process, the electronic process that is already there?
I do not know the genesis of the capital murder wheel. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, you want to come out and give us your perspective on all this stuff?
Well, she wasn't privy to, and I see Judge Gibbons left. Judge Gibbons, you want to come up and maybe let the district attorney hear what you had to say about Mr. Snipes?
Yeah.
I think in fairness, you need to hear that so you can properly address it.
Commissioner Cantrell, I've spoken to D.A. Johnson about that.
Okay, she knows, okay. So you're up to speed? Okay.
I don't know if I'm up to speed or not, but good morning, Commissioners Court, Judge Jenkins. I think I was asked to be here this morning, and I think I may have said to Mr. Martin that I had a speaking engagement, so obviously I rushed through that speaking engagement this morning to get here. I just simply want to say to the court, the DA's office has no role in or control over this process. I think your IT person just said all murder cases, all capital murder cases are automatically assigned to the presiding judge. That presiding judge right now is Judge Birmingham. So once the cases are assigned to that presiding judge, then that coordinator of that particular court will say to us, this is the next person who's in line to receive that case.
You missed the whole deal. No, the filler cases. No, Judge Gibbons Davis talked about the management of filler cases, and that law enforcement basically know where you are. That's what I said. You need to get the transcript or hear her again. She said filler cases. And filler cases means that you manage what goes on capital cases. That was the genesis of what we heard earlier.
And how do you do that, Commissioner?
So,
in other words, let's take 3 or 4.
I have no idea what you heard earlier.
Well, that's what she's still here. She's still here.
The only thing I'm saying is that we have no control over this process. The judges are the ones who are deciding how these cases are assigned.
She's saying you do. Judge Davis? Judge Davis?
Okay, everybody calm down.
Look, that's what you're not. Judge Davis, don't go anywhere. Okay.
And Judge, I'm not saying you have control over once the case is in the hands of the judge, and I'm not really playing into any of these theories at this point. I'm just listening. But as I understand it, what they are talking about is because the things are in sequential order, you can time, for instance, in the Santander case. Well, wait. Let's not talk about a specific case. In a case where a person is injured and then dies, theoretically the DA's office could time when they file and that is a murder and arraign someone for that murder, and have a filler case that pulls the judge that maybe they don't want gets the filler case, and the judge that maybe they do want with the murder.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, you don't know.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
That's what they're talking about.
I don't care where the cases land. We are here to prosecute the cases. We're here to make certain that everything is done fairly, and that's my commitment to the people of Dallas County.
Well,
we're not trying to, excuse me, Commissioner, I did not interfere when you were speaking.
You're off the rail.
We did
You're
not.
off the rail.
Commissioner, I did not interrupt you when you were speaking.
Okay,
you're
still off rail. You came in.
I respected you.
But you came in at the last, and so I'm wanting Judge Davis to put you back on the rail. You came in at the end.
The only thing I'm saying to this Commissioner's Court, we do not try to form shop. We present the cases as they are. We're not holding cases back for any reason. There's no reason for us to do that. And that's exactly what I'm saying to this court.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Judge Davis, you want to?
This is what I want to say. D.A. Johnson and I have had several phone conversations, and the emotion that you see here is the emotion that she gave me on the phone. When I told her, I called her and I said, I need to speak to you because something is troubling me. We immediately spoke. She had the same emotion. And I want to say because as I told you, I don't mince words, and I'm going to say what I've said privately, publicly, but I told D.A. Johnson that it was her first assistant, Mike Snipes, that made the comment twice admitting that he had manipulated the system.
Exactly.
And D.A. Johnson said she was upset by that fact. So I do want to be clear that I am not trying to, take you by surprise today. Everything that I've said, we've stated, together on the phone. So, and same emotion from D.A. Johnson as then.
Well, the emotion, one thing, I'm talking about the facts. Do you stand, excuse me, do you stand by your facts?
I stand by the information that Judge Burns gave me that, yes, the DA's office.
That's not firsthand.
No, well.
It's probably third hand.
No, because he.
Okay, who's the judge that Mr. Snipes, who's the judge that Mr. Snipes made that comment to?
Judge Kennedy.
Judge Kennedy.
Fargo.
Okay, well, she's here. I hadn't heard her say that.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Commissioner Cantrell, at this time, I'm going to respectfully decline to comment on that issue. I think it's really important that we stay away from and avoid particular incidents and facts of any particular type of
Well, those facts are being
person.
stated in this court.
Well, I'm not going to comment on them, Commissioner. I appreciate the question.
You comment on them to get to somebody else for them to make that allegation.
No, I can tell you that I work with the judges, and I work with the judges to try to fix any appearance of impropriety. If I find out about it, if somebody tells me it, I will work with the judges to try to fix that appearance of impropriety, even if it's just an appearance. So I'm not going to comment on any specific facts or comments or anything of that nature at this time. I appreciate the question, and I respectfully decline to comment on it.
Okay. Well, the allegations being made.
You're
are
right, but
second, third,
Judge
again.
Kennedy, here's the thing, this isn't your case, and Judge Snipes, Mr. Snipes, who's also a judge, but I want to make clear for the record for people here, he's not a judge now, he's a retired judge who's the chief deputy of the DA's office, first assistant for the DA's office. A conversation that he had with you is not covered by the canon of a judge not being able to talk about matters before their court. So if you decline to speak, you decline to speak, that's fine. But you're not restricted from speaking about this. Apparently, Ms. Givens and several other people have already heard it. It's been spoken about. So you're not restricted if you choose to speak. I think it's a pretty important matter because Judge Johnson's integrity has been called into question. And the question, it's her first assistant. She's saying, we don't do this. Kind of the silence is deafening. So if you have anything to say, it'd be, I hope you will, but I respect your decision not to.
And Judge, may I speak? When Judge Givens brought this matter about the Juarez case to me, about whether or not she should have received whether or not there was something going on, based on my information, whatever, and I did exactly what she said. I went and I looked into that matter. And it's my understanding that this matter also has been investigated internally among themselves. And based on that investigation, what she thought had happened did not happen. And that's why I stand by my position is that we have no control over the process, what the judges have decided to do with murder cases and capital murder cases. And I am committed to making certain that everything is done fairly. So when she mentioned it to me, yes, I was highly offended and upset that something could have happened. That's why I immediately looked into it.
And Madam DA, in looking into it, did Mr. Snipes deny that he said these things?
Judge Givens?
I want to be clear. I don't want to take credit. Remember, it's not a 282nd versus 292nd thing, and we said we were going to stay away from cases.
Cases, yeah. She brought up the case.
I want to be clear that I am the last person that spoke up publicly about this, okay? Because I don't have to have a microphone to do my job for the people of Dallas County. That's my job every day, despite whether you all are meeting or not. My point is, I'm not going to stand up here and take credit for several other judges' activity that did bring up this issue. So, yes, I agree that there was an issue, and we did, in our minds, fix the process so it could not be easily manipulated. But I'm not going to stand here and listen to a conversation that the big giant Amber Givens Davis stood up and said, no, I want that case. It's not about that at all. It's about doing the right thing and making sure that there is no perception of anything otherwise than fairness going on in the process.
Madam DA, did Mr. Snipes tell you whether or not he said these things?
I'm not privy to any kind of conversation of this nature.
But you investigated it. What I'm asking is, his integrity is called into question too. Has he denied this?
We investigated the issue that Judge Gibbons brought to my attention. We investigated that issue. And when we investigated that issue, it is exactly what the internal investigation panned out to be. So if you all want a copy of that internal investigation, you're going to need to talk to the judges about that. But it all coincided. What we learned is the same thing that their internal investigation discovered.
You're talking about after a case was filed by the DA's office, did the judge make the correct assignment based on when the arraignment happened? But what I'm talking about is there are allegations that Mr. Snipes repeatedly to several people said that they gamed the system. I'm assuming you talked to him about that. Did he deny it?
We have the judge here that heard that conversation that's not willing to substantiate that, and you just continue to throw that stuff out there. If they're not willing to talk about it, then why are you talking about it?
Did Mike deny it?
I investigated exactly what Judge Gibbons asked me to investigate. That's what I did. That investigation showed exactly what the internal investigation panned out to be.
Surely you asked Mike whether he did that, right?
Okay, he's deflecting. Here,
No, I'm not deflecting, I'm just asking a simple question.
The key
You
is
say you
this.
don't want to answer me,
Judge
but I just want to
Gibbons
know.
went to the DA because and said that she thought that there may be some things happening because a particular case that should have been in her court wasn't put in her court by the administrative judge.
And that's what I investigated.
That's what she investigated.
And it did
So
not
you can
happen.
divert and deflect and jump over here. Oh, you
The whole thing wasn't made up.
Can we clarify something?
Yeah, clarify it, Judge, because right now, what the DA is saying is that what your initial gut feeling was wrong.
No, because we need to step away from it being my initial gut feeling. I'm, again, not going to take credit for all of this awesomeness here today.
Well, I don't know that it's awesome, Judge, but
It
it started
started, it started, whether people want to substantiate it or not. I'm not standing up here for my health and telling you that First Assistant Mike Snipes told 2 judges that he manipulated the system.
But you weren't one of those judges.
No.
Okay, where are those judges?
The report that D.A. Johnson is referencing does reference that as well, that it was confirmed, he said it, and now he's
But
retracting the
where are
statement.
these people at? Oh, my gosh. Okay.
I don't have any, look,
You did
My
a good job
credibility-
reflecting that, too, so.
I'm not, my
Because
credibility is
It's
all
not
that I
deflecting.
have.
It is the question.
And-
Judge Johnson stood up and forcefully said that she does not allow forum
Okay.
shopping.
Judge,
Now
let me
there's an
ask you a question
allegation that her first assistant forum shopped, and I'm assuming she talked to him about it, and I just want to know, what did he say?
She wanted to know whether or not this
No,
case, no, it's not about
What
what
did
he
he
said.
say?
Let her answer.
With what she said to
So
me.
you're not going to tell us what he said?
That's what
Okay.
I dealt with. That's what we investigated. We investigated it and not to be that. That's the only thing I can say to you, Judge Jenkins. I can't say anything else.
Judge Gibbons, did you go to the DA and tell her that you thought a case that should have been in your court wasn't put in your court?
No, let me be specific.
Okay, be
Excuse me.
specific about what you went to her about.
After the issue had been raised by at least 5 of my other colleagues, one of which sent a long text message saying that the case was supposed to be in my court. Again, for me, this was not about me getting that case, okay? When I received the information from several of my colleagues, and after believing the statements that one of my colleagues told me about Judge Snipes, which has been confirmed, he did admit that he said it. Okay. Whether you're going to get D.A. Johnson to say that or not. After that information, I went to D.A. Johnson and I said, your first assistant is telling people that he manipulated the system. I'm troubled by that. Those were my exact words.
Okay. You had no concern that Judge Birmingham didn't assign that case to your court that should have been your court the next
It
time?
happened to
Because
be-
that's exactly what Commissioner Price got in this court and said last court session.
I just said it was forum shopping.
Right, exactly. So you're saying that's not true now?
No, the statement that Judge Snipes made,
No.
that's the substance of forum shopping. Yes, Commissioner Cantrell.
Commissioner Price? So when you stated that Judge Birmingham put that case kept it in his court instead of assigning it to another court?
That was not true.
So
That
that
wasn't
turned
true?
out to not be true,
Well,
according to
no,
Mo Bird
no,
and
Was that not
the
true?
Owen Turtle Law.
No, they tell him, don't talk about the case. The process is that he didn't follow his own process.
Okay, right.
He didn't follow his own process, and what I'm getting from Judge Gibbons Davis and some other information I put forward showed that, in fact, he was collaborated with.
There's no evidence of collaboration.
Sure it is.
Where is the
It's the
evidence?
DA
What are you talking about
that
here?
can decide when
Judge
to arraign and when to get a case in front of him. When Santander was alive, that's
There
not a
you go.
murder case.
Judge, let's stay away from the
Officer
case.
When a person is alive, it's not a murder. When a person dies, it is a murder. Then that person is arraigned for murder.
Thank you for telling us that.
That is what they are alleging, the conversations that Mike Snipes
And Judge Clay
talked to them
Jenkins,
about.
I will tell you that there are additional facts that can't be discussed here
Yeah.
that give more light, Commissioner Garcia, to the actual happenings of these 2 cases, but I can't get into those 2 things because one of the cases is pending in my court. But I will tell you, please do not think that this is some haphazard, we didn't have anything better to do with our time. This was an issue. it was admitted by several judges that we know that the system has been manipulated, whether in this case or in the past, and needed to be changed a second time for the same allegation.
Judge, if it's really an issue, you'll meet, your little judges will meet together, and you'll get it changed to where you put them in the system, just like every other case.
Right.
And
Well,
you take
again,
all that out of it.
Again, currently, we're told that that can't happen, but we are in talks.
Who told you it can't happen?
IT. Judge Kennedy, you spoke to them. They told us currently that that was not possible. Isn't that correct?
Excuse me. So I feel like, if I recall, the response was, we have certain rules regarding co-defendants and multiple cases and et cetera, and so they're not able to, at this time, implement those particulars from what I understand. Now, they can...
So if you're saying if they can implement it, y'all will do it?
Well, again, I will tell you, Commissioner Cantrell, this is what I will tell you. We are 2 of 17 district court judges, and the majority of judges who meet would have to agree to that. But we support any randomized process. I believe I can speak for Judge Gibbons.
Not bingo project change.
Correct.
Not bingo.
But it is a decision
IT
by the
is telling us.
judges
That's
right.
about what process
That's
is to be determined.
Can I
So that if
please-
it's an IT
IT says they can do
process, it is the judges that direct
Get it done.
IT on what those definitions are and the equation, whatever it is, that selects that process, right?
Correct.
So it is the judges that determine this. They are the ones that took the capital murder cases out of the electronic system,
So-
and therefore they could theoretically put them back into the electronic
And we've
system.
just-
So my understanding of the way it previously worked, and the reason it was changed, was because it was through an electronic system. However, the particular rules of, and I could be wrong, but the particular rules of the co-defendants in multiple cases was not able to be implemented. So some people felt like they weren't getting getting as many of those cases as other judges.
And that was in 2009.
And again, this was way before I was here, and we support a randomized system.
Yeah, that's...
So that at your
and
next
I-
meeting, those are the kinds, that would be the decision that you can discuss and bring forward to find the equitable, fair process that is going to be used.
That's the reason they wound up with them damn bingo balls. That's what they consider to be a better process.
Well, they're saying that the mainframe won't do it.
Why not?
IT's saying the mainframe will do it, and they just need to vote on it and make it happen.
I hope that in your next,
IT.
I hope that in your next meeting, you can come to an agreement to do it electronically. Obviously, the appearance of impropriety that everybody's so worried about, came back because you all have not been able to do your own system. So I am sorry that this has had to be public, so public around here, when there was nothing wrong. So,
When there was
with that being said,
there was nothing wrong.
well, that wasn't caused by themselves.
Yeah, okay.
And we support whatever system they come up with.
Yeah.
It's totally in their control.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll look into these allegations that have been made.
Yeah, that nobody had come forward on. Yeah, that's great, Judge.
Yeah, I just...
I heard them come forward again.
I don't even know what to
Judge
think
Gibbons
anymore.
came forward numerous
I know what to think. Hell, they should have brought it up to begin with. I know what to think.
All right.
It just,
Unless-
but two judges, I'm getting ready to go to my second. But for those two judges, hell, they would have changed the system to begin with. Everybody else. Anyway, the next is the Office of Information
To
Technology.
Black Eyes, let's go.
Yes, this is on the briefing, and it's in several, I'd ask, and I guess the court may have received a audit of the last issue that came before this court with regards to the CJIS and compliance, and so I have again, just like the last conversation, a myriad of concerns, everything from, where we are with CJIS to internal controls. Mr. Auditor, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but I got a ton of things here. We received an audit and what still concerns me is, first of all, we've had 3 attempts to become CJIS compliant. Do they audit us every 3 years? Is that correct? That correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we failed every time.
We've been put on probation every time, correct?
Well, hell, probation. Okay, so we put on probation every time. Okay, but we have not been compliant.
That's correct.
Okay, so what gives this court, and especially me, a comfort level that we going since we have failed or been put on probation for the last 10 years. We've had basically the same staff. We've had the same equipment, to my understanding. So what's the comfort level that by October, which is sine die in the legislature, lights out, that's the end of it? What gives me a comfort level that we're going to be compliant?
Well, hopefully, since we've made some changes in staff.
Yeah, but you ain't made enough change. You made one change. Okay?
Right. And right now, we have Mr. Nathan Dillinger, who is keeping track of our status of our CJIS audit, that we are at least maintaining and on top of where we should be at this time in our audit. So hopefully by October, we will have met all conditions that were described in the audit. Mr. Dillinger is here. He can walk through our status right now.
Well,
but
where's that graph, though, Mr. Martin? Hell, I don't need, it's kind of like this last conversation. All of these, we sit here and I'm looking at an audit, and I'm looking at how much money we spent by years, and some of this stuff I started going out trying to find. Yeah.
Graph?
Yeah. So I mean that's basically what we're talking about. That's what this court, the last time we had an arm wrestle up in here, we were talking about whether or not that equipment and or the employees has been my concern. We can meet these deadlines.
And I think one of the concerns there is, you're right, we spend a lot of money on Cisco issues. We didn't spend it on the right Cisco issues. The Cisco equipment we're purchasing now are for those end-of-life equipment we should have purchased in the last few audits.
Time out. I've been going through all this stuff. What is end of life?
Those are the servers that we have, the switches that we have, and
I got it. We've been buying end of life,
right.
According to this, and we've been buying end of life every year. We've been buying end of life.
We've been buying Cisco equipment. I don't think we've specifically been buying end of life, end of service switches. So that's what we're purchasing right now. I mean, you're right. We've been.
You're purchasing those switches to replace the ones that are reaching their end of life.
Right. But his concern is that some of them have been end of life for a few years.
I got $7 million here. I've got, we bought $7 million worth of switches. So what the hell is the life?
Well, I mean, again, the staff should be able to tell us how long these switches will last, but
nobody, everything that I've got, I can't find it. What is the end of life? I'm asking that. If we spent $7 million, I want to know what's the end of life for a switch.
Switch.
Speak up. Speak up. I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, thank you. What we've done is we've opted, the tuition should last basically from 5 to 7 years. What we've done.
Stop there.
Yes, sir.
Is that typical in the industry?
Yeah, they'll typically last, their switches themselves will actually last a lot longer than that. But one of the things based upon the CJIS requirements is that we need to go through start making sure that once they stop basically providing upgrades and stuff for the switch operating systems, that we go through and actually start replacing them out. So what we've adopted is to go ahead and actually start replacing the switches on a 20% basis per year. And what we've done now, based to address the court's concern based upon what they approved in March, is to go through and actually replace large preponderance of the switches to around $1.5 million.
Well, that $1.5 million is an add-on to the 4.7 that we've already spent. Again, $7 million over
I think this, I think those switches are, as the commission looks at, I think that list, that amount typically is, if I understand, is from 2002. The county is basically a standardizer on the Cisco switches a long time ago, actually a long time before I got here. And again, $1 million of that is actually on the Sology camera systems that Mr. Ames, the county tax assessor, we standardized on that particular platform. So certainly, what we try to do is we try to standardize to the greatest degree we possibly can on one platform, so we basically gain some synergies on that. So again, over a period of time, looking at the sheet that I have, it's like almost $6 million over since 2002. That's 16 years.
Well, it's 7 million. It's 7 million based on the audit. It's 7 million. But
the switches are rotated out starting at between 4 and 5 years, right? So that they never reach that.
Well, again, I think that what we typically, again, we can certainly go into the issues of availability of funding, but what we've adopted is to go through and actually start replacing those switches faster. In the old days, we just basically kind of keep the equipment in until as long as it was continuing to run. But obviously, to meet CJIS compliance, we had to go through and actually do that much more quickly.
And that's the issue. The servers and the switches continued to run, so we didn't replace them. We didn't put the resources in to replace them, and they became end of service. CDW came in and did an audit, I'm not sure how long ago, and they labeled some of these as end of service, and they was not supporting them. CJIS, of course, came in, Mr. Petty came in and said, these are not being supported. These are a security threat, so they need to be replaced. So that's when we started going through this process.
But we'd already failed. We already failed several times.
That's correct.
Before he came in.
That's correct. And they should have been on, as Mr. Victor said, they should have been on a rotation schedule. For whatever reason, they weren't. They are very expensive. And right now, we're at the point where we've got to replace them. We have no choice. So that's why we have this $1.5–2 million for this item, but this is going to be an ongoing cost from this point forward.
But where is the graph that tells me that, you know, I know I've failed, I have been put on probation all these other years. Between now and October, which is basically, you know what, right at 90, how do I know where I am now on replacement?
Mr. Dillinger, is he?
Yeah, if you would come up.
Where's the graph? Show me the graph.
Mr. Dillinger's doing a nice job just keeping track of every single CJIS item that we need to pass and what the status of those are. I think I sent one to the court about a week and a half or so ago, and I believe Mr.
The
Dillinger.
Cisco purchased by you? Well, what did you say?
This is
The status of the
status
CJIS.
of the CJIS audit, which includes the Cisco switches. There are a number of other items in the CJIS audit, not just the Cisco switches, but there are a number of other items. Mr. Dillinger is keeping track of those. Did you make copies of them?
We do. I have them right here, Mr. Mark.
Can you send those?
Can you raise the mic?
And introduce yourself so let them know what you do.
Working for IT Services as a project manager for the compliance project. The compliance project has an end date of October 15th, which is our next audit. We'll have continuous end dates after that to meet sustainment of the items we're already completing.
But October 15th is signing dot. It's not, you can talk about after that. October 15th, you know, our system is in jeopardy. It is, correct? Okay, so my position is that where are we now in relationship to October 15th? Are we a third of the way? Are we 20% of the way? Where are we? And see, that while they're saying this says access to the network, all this, where's the graph?
So a graph, we can get you, okay? But what I can report today is that we've replaced 134 of the 197 switches, been labeled as end of service, end of life. So this puts us in a good spot. What is that, 60-something%?
And how much time does it take you to replace these switches?
On average, it'll take about an hour to replace a switch.
So it's taken us.
Well, I mean,
The course action, 15th of May, that the court basically gave us. We would aim to, I don't know what's going on, list. We went ahead and started replacing the switches based on the 15th of May, and from the 15th of May, we basically had 197 switches to go through and actually start replacing. Of that 197 switches, sir, 134 of them have basically been replaced as of date. The focus is basically focused on the CJIS buildings as a priority. And certainly there's a second sheet that Nathan has also provided, not the 9-page list, but the actual list that typically is, I think, is like 2 pages that talks about the buildings that typically have been basically addressed. And again, the focus is to get those items actually done before the July the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, July the 20th. Because we intend to have Mr. Petty, who is the ultimate state DPS auditor, to come back in August to go through and actually say, here's where we are. Based upon the 9-page list that you have there, you typically, right now, I think we've got 52 tasks that typically on that list. Of those 52 tasks, we have 27 that's basically been completed. Some items, based upon conversations with Sergeant Rayleigh and Lieutenant Sherman of the Sheriff's Office, can be basically addressed not necessarily as a CJIS item, but maybe as an item that's a follow-on. So we're in the process of actually cleaning that list up now. But right now,
52 tasks, how many?
52 and 27 that typically have been basically done as of today. The one big item, obviously, is the end-of-life, end-of-support network switches, and that's 134 of 197 switches have been done, with the focus being the CJIS buildings being the priority.
That is great.
And we do expect to actually have the CJIS buildings, as far as the network switches are concerned, we do expect to have those done in July. And so again, it doesn't make a difference what we basically say as far as whether we are ready for CJIS or not. It's what the state auditor says, and that's one of the reasons why we're asking them to come back. We asked them to come back, and we asked them to come in March. They came on March 27th, told us where we are, and we asked them to come back in August to give us an opportunity to go through and say how we're doing. Also, Mr. Dillinger has been tasked to go through and actually stay in regular communications with Doc Petty, there at the state DPS audit, to say, okay, well, here's what we've done, and here's what we've done, and here's where we are.
I pulled Court Order 2018-0364. Showed that this is in April, a couple of months ago, we spent 1.586 in terms of supposedly switching. Guess what this audit has shown me is that what is all the departments seem to be buying switches, buying Cisco equipment in this review. I looked at this audit, and it appears as though all departments are buying them every year, been buying Cisco equipment. You did see that, right? Okay. So why are they, I'm listening to everything you're saying, but I'm still looking at them buying, all these departments buying all the Cisco equipment.
Typically, what you see there, what we're passing out to the court members now, is that you typically have, I guess if you look at the chart that's typically on page 1, we want to thank Ms. Carla Williams, who is the IT senior financial analyst, for basically pulling the information down. What you have there is you have the source.
On which page?
I'm looking at the very first page, sir.
Okay.
It talks about the vendors and the amount purchased.
Right.
Those are the various suppliers that we typically have bought items from over a period of time.
Okay.
And so, to my knowledge, the departments typically are not necessarily buying, the departments themselves, other than IT, we're the ones that typically buying those assets because they're an enterprise asset. I'm not aware of typically any other county department that's typically buying those assets.
If you look on page 3 of this report, if you've read it, it says that they're being purchased in other departments, 3, 4, some of them are being bought. In fact, this is when I'm going to get around to these internal controls, Mr. Auditor. I'm trying to figure out this whole this thing of this what they call what they've got receive date. Have you seen this report?
No, I haven't.
I got a report for the auditor.
Yes, sir, I can go through next to make sure he has it. If I'm not mistaken, I think what the commissioner may be alluding to is that we are buying them for a particular building. For example, we just finished one of the buildings that typically is there as far as the Swifts building. They're considered a CJIS building, and so we may be basically buying assets for a particular building, but typically the departments don't necessarily buy switchgear, to my knowledge. They don't buy switchgear. We typically buy it to basically replace assets in a particular building, and that's maybe what the description is alluding to.
Well, the description is basically doing two things. First of all, showing receipt date, and it's not in Oracle, Mr. Auditor. This is not in Oracle. When we receive some of this equipment, and then when you chase it down, what you're showing is it's in certain, it's in departments. I mean, I know about Sire, I know about what's going on with, with NetSync and blah, 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 Sology.
We can figure out what happened with my computer has been not working the whole court.
But my point is that, I'm having some real problems with the dates some of this stuff was received, and this is some stuff, of late. And it's all right here in the report. It's broken down by everything from CDW, and it seems like CDW was the biggest offender, because Flair didn't seem to pop up with that not received date in Oracle. That's at NCDI.
Yes, sir. They're just suppliers that are off of the Texas DIR contract or some other one.
So why is CDW not? Why do I have this listing of all of these products? And I'm talking about some as much as 6 million. Let's see, 6.
Alexa.
No, 12. Let's see, 12,000, 6,000. All of these at the top of page 3, not received in Oracle.
Well, I believe it's asked Ms. Carla, I think she's there conferring with, if you would maybe come up to the, Ms. Carla is the IT senior financial analyst, who is the one as far as the...
Somebody's got to explain this to me.
Yes, we'll be more than happy to go to, sit down and go walk through it.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Judge, and hello, Commissioners. Based on my research on this, I use Oracle, which is our financial system. The information as far as the data that you see here on page 6 of your report, which is Flair data. As I went through and looked at the different items, and there's a piece in the Oracle system that you can check off once you, the PO has been basically pleased, or you've received the item, you actually click on a button in Oracle, and it lets you know the date that you actually received the item.
Well, stop right there, because one of the things that I had jammed up Mr. Thomas about is that over in IT, at least in areas, certain areas, you're not submitting POs. You got areas in there that's not submitting POs.
Well, in some cases, probably back.
You got requests for payments.
Right. You have requests for payment. Is just like you and I would pay our electric bill or phone bill.
That's not process. That's not control. I was going back looking for the POs. There are a number that don't have POs. In fact, that was one of the concerns that I had lodged on a $750,000 deal. Did not have a PO.
Yes, sir.
I lodged that complaint some months ago.
How could there not be a PO? That doesn't make any sense.
Excuse me? It's called control. It's called controls.
Wait a minute, how could there not be a PO? I thought that...
Ma'am, it depends on the actual, as far as a PO, when you go out and you get a quote, then you go through the proper channels in reference to get a PO. You do a request for payment first and say, hey, I need this item. Can this item get approved? And then once the item gets approved through Oracle, then there's a PO issue.
Okay.
And in some cases, there are requests for payments done where it's sent to the accounts payable department, and by the accounts payable department, I can't speak for them, but they have controls in place to say, hey, is there a court order? Or is
they
there...
don't have controls. That's the problem. No, that's the
But the
problem.
process was followed.
No, it wasn't. Did you just say what you just said? It was not
I
followed.
did hear what she just said, and that is what she said.
In the request for payment,
Yes, sir.
is that different than POs?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
it is.
Okay, and are there a number of, what I'm reading here, a number that you got requests for payments, but you didn't have POs?
That's correct.
Okay,
And-
that's a control.
Because you wouldn't, because it was a different process?
Well, as far as the government does allow, if you have an emergency, you can do a request for payment, but based on day-to-day operations, you should have a PO to pay for an item.
These
So
do
to-
not
to-
meet that test. There is not a purchase here that meets that test.
Well, for the report, sir, I did not, some of these do not have the PO on them. I can provide the PO number for them, but some do not have a PO. For the lack of the data that was required, I can add another column and put the PO number on it.
Okay, so you tell me all of them had POs?
Some didn't and some did not. So like I said, I could provide you with another column that will list all the POs on there.
I think that what the commissioner is alluding to is that, say, on the CDW government contract, on page number, which is page number 3, there's, it says...
I'm also on page 7, flare data. Flare data, look at the NRDIOs in there, in that whole receipt column. I mean, like I said, I read writing extremely well. In fact, you can start on page 7, page 8, NRDIO, page 8, NRDIO. I know,
Yes,
I
sir.
receive
Yes, sir.
data in Oracle, I
Yes,
got
sir.
you.
I'm looking at the actual information there, and I'm assuming that when it says across the top of the page, it says PO number, I'm looking at the NRDIO, which is the received date, but again, I am looking and seeing a PO number aside each one of those, so certainly we can go through and actually take a look at that to sort of answer the commissioner's question, but it does seem like that the ones that might be in question as far as the receipt dates and stuff, that you do typically have a PO number associated.
I heard her say that there are some, I heard her say there are some that are not. And what I'm telling you is that there are submissions that in the $500 to $750,000 range that did not have PO.
Yes, sir. I do recall that there is one that typically happened for, it may have been a few months ago.
Uh-huh.
Yes, a few months
I got
ago.
it.
It was $790-some
$795,000. I got you.
What it was is a bill that came in for, a tariff bill that came in.
Mhm.
And what happened was that, I guess the staff thought it was a bill for Dallas, all of
They
Dallas
thought.
County was the
Yeah, I
actual
know.
region. But based upon when they got ready to pay that bill, obviously, the kickback was we don't have that much money in that particular account. And when they looked at it,
Commissioner, the auditor's office reviewed it, we audited, we found the issue. We do not pay without a PO if it is above a certain amount. There's a process.
I got you. And believe me, I've dealt with Mr. Thomas.
What's the
My
rest of
problem is
this,
they
what's the
lied.
rest of this then?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You were halfway through
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about this.
So that there was an item that got typically paid that was.
But I don't want to brush over the $795,000. The problem is that someone in IT blessed it.
Yes, there was two, actually, there's, you have typically for that type of amount, typically you have to have two people that basically approve it. And sad to say.
And those two people basically did.
Those two people did, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I mean, see, y'all make me want to, that's what drives me so nuts around here. You want to make me, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Two people did. I'm back there, I'll get the internal controls in just a minute. Yeah, you did have two people.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah,
we did
one's
have-
not here,
One's not here.
and
yes,
one still is here.
Yes, sir. So,
Yes.
so as far as, certainly we basically spoken to the staff member that typically was, that wasn't something they intentionally did. But again, the thing is that typically they inadvertently put a bill, and obviously the entire bill was not ours. So the thing is that based upon the controls that have been put in, certainly the thing that we've done is that we said we don't typically pay bills that way anymore. We basically say if you don't have a PO for it, you don't typically pay the bill, and that's the internal control that typically worked out with the financial analysts or working with the county auditor's office.
Well, I'm glad I asked some, because anyone can, request regardless of the amount, and I know what you do, but we've got to have something, some level of authority. And apparently, like you said, you gave those people a level of authority.
And what we've put in place, sir, now is that I am the one that typically approves those bills now, and typically what I routinely ask.
But but because of that, and you started doing that.
Yes, sir. And so what we do have the things in place. Obviously, as we discover items that typically need to be basically addressed, certainly we as a department head address them.
But is this not the same contract and the same matter that Mr. Coons or Dr. Coons?
No, just different items.
No, it's different, damn it. See that? I was trying to go down to that. That's different. This is I'm talking about, again, I'm back to
Cisco is a CGIS, right?
Sir, I know just that item that the commissioner is referring to is more of our financial controls items that we typically have to address.
Okay.
But again, the CDW item is how much dollars that we typically spent for Cisco, and certainly I think that the report here typically lays that out on how much we spent, inclusive of the $1 million that we spent for camera systems that we typically standardize on through the tax office.
I know we dealt with that in a prior court, but we had some confusion where there was a unanimous court order to do one thing, and then Dr. Coonsberry prevailed on a court member and some others to push for another thing.
As usual,
And is that all now back on track? And I think the $64,000 question is, is that going to get done right and on time?
Yes, sir. That's what we certainly think the court, as well as Mr. Martin's office, have emphasized that we don't have any other options. We have to get it done. That's one of the reasons why we put such an emphasis on basically getting it done, as well as having Mr. Petty from the state auditor's office come back and actually do the another pre-audit in August.
Hey, I don't want you guys to confuse all of the issues. Now, the Cisco is just a small piece of the CGIS compliance. And that's why you have this 5-page, 6-page list of items that we have to address. The Cisco item, we will address that item. That item, like you said, 134 out of 197 switches are done. Congratulations, Nathan Dillon. I think we can do it in an hour, but we can't do those in an hour because that's literally taking switches out of.
I was getting ready to go there.
You can't do it in an hour. It takes a lot
I got it,
longer
but see,
than that.
but Mr. Martin, the problem is somebody stands up and says that. Believe me, my notes are here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We can go do it in an hour. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you got 60 more switches you can do in 60 hours.
Yeah, no.
Really?
It takes a lot longer than that.
It does.
It does.
And
It may take an hour to put a switch in, and all the switches in one of the components, but it's literally taking down systems and bringing them back up. And that's what replacing the switches.
Right. And what we are typically doing, we basically have set up multiple teams to go and actually do that, sir. So what the teams do is they go through and actually stage the equipment to make sure it's all configured, and then they stage it, and then they basically have teams to go out and actually do it. So we have multiple queues of people that are going out to the building. I think that's typically why we've been able to go through and actually ramp up so quickly, and why we actually, I think we set a date for the July the 20th to have the end-of-life and the support equipment done. I think we'll be actually finished before that because of what the teams have done to get in place, in concert with obviously our business partners, Cisco and CDW.
Back to those employees and level of authority and internal controls. Do they all have access to SIRE and able to? Is that a level that is controlled in the department in terms of who has access? Because an employee who is no longer here had access to SIRE and could go into SIRE.
Right, sir.
Okay.
I think the controls that typically are in place is that typically it's something that flows as far as the way the queues are handled. I'm typically the one that basically comes to as a department head. So yes, the staff may be able to go through and actually submit an item, but it ultimately has to come to me. Specifically as a contract, it has to be routed through the Civil DA's office for review. And then ultimately that goes from myself over to Mr. Martin's office, and then Mr. Martin's obviously presents it to the Q and SIRE via to the Commissioner's Court. So I think that there is, certainly if somebody might basically try to put something into SIRE, but certainly there's a way to go to actually make sure that typically that it's checked all the way through. I think the Commission may also be talking about it, well, it's basically something that's done in Oracle. And generally what happens is that if somebody submits something in Oracle like the IT buyer Dwight Adwell does now, I'm the person that actually, at this particular point, approves all the items that typically go into the system. So I review it, and if I have a particular question about it, but my specific question is, has it been basically approved by a court? And then typically what Dwight does is, and has been real handy on, is that he puts the actual court date that the item was there, the brief in, either in a particular line number, if it's miscellaneously brief, so that way we have something to refer to go back to. So if there's a particular question about it, I as a department head can actually generate those questions at that particular time. So that's another one of the actual additional controls. And so one of the other items that we typically have put into place as well is for the IT operations chief, who generally is the one that typically has been the one to approve them. But what we typically have done is we said, well, we're going to govern down the amount that that person can actually approve, and anything else basically over a particular amount, say $250,000, has to be basically approved by the CIO as the next level.
So you're telling me those 134 switches have an end of life 5 to 7 years? The ones you just put in?
Yes, sir. Right now, as long as Cisco is able to go through and actually supply the iOS patches for it, then we should be able to go through and keep them. That generally we're programming 5 to 7 years. Yes, sir. Because we don't want to go through and actually get into this situation where we basically have to do this massive, basically upgrade and stuff there. In the
Well, you just told me earlier you try to do it at 20%.
That is the goal that we briefed to the court. Is that, matter of fact, I think that was in the actual briefing document in March, on March the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, sir. Is that the goal going forward would be make sure that you basically we replace the assets at 20% rate, so that way we always basically stay in front. So that 20% rate replacement is a 5-year turnaround.
Well, kind of like the judges earlier, I'm at least glad as a result, because if money would have been in that line code for that $795,000, it never would have gotten to you based on your policies, because 2 people had approved it. And it's just so when the auditor went to pay it, the money wasn't there. But it was approved. It was out of your department. It was approved.
Yes, sir. And certainly we've taken appropriate controls to put in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. But which is a little bit separate issue from the CJIS compliance. Certainly we'll continue to work based on the court's directive as well as Mr. Martin's office's guidance. We're basically making sure that happens, because we understand the import of not being CJIS compliant. So again, as we talked about in the staff, is the ships are burned and stuff that we don't have a way to go back.
CJIS, not being CJIS compliant, we keep saying that kind of tangentially, but not being CJIS compliant basically means our system shuts down. I mean, that's basically what it means.
Yes, sir, and that's why we don't have an option. That's why we don't have an option to not be CJIS compliant.
But I understand that, Mr. Victor. But we've been talking. Like I said, we failed 3 times.
But what has happened is that previously, and certainly we can basically show what we typically have gone through and did remediation efforts. But again, at each one of the audits, they say you have a particular issue with this particular area. So what we do is we try to make sure that we go through and actually address everything. So I think previously we may have only had maybe less than 10 items that typically will hit as far as the CJIS compliance. What we did is we took the tack, let's go back and check everything, just to make sure that we typically have everything done, as well as bring in the state CJIS auditor to make sure that we, based upon, it's not based upon our review, it's based upon what they say, and that's what we typically are going by.
How are you tracking expenses with regards to CJIS?
Yes, sir. What we do is that Ms. Carla has basically set up a line code so that we can go through and actually put those into the particular line.
When did you do that?
We have met with the various departments as far as budget, county audit, and we wanted to track the sieges of how much we're spending on the sieges. And we have set up a project code, it's 92013, and basically everybody is on board with when something occurs with sieges that we know what to do as far as getting it on the expense. Currently, we probably have spent maybe $2 million as far as sieges right now.
$2 million since when?
Since last year, I think there was a court order that was done, 207134, which kind of started the sieges process, and it was for network segmentation. And so that one was $89,400. And with that particular one, it started, I think, September of 2017.
So the CJIS compliance review started in September of 2017?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
So it was already in process when we...
Right. As I added up the totals for this morning, we're at $2 million as far as all the prior...
When it started, hell, how far along were we? I mean, in September 2017. I mean, we had a year to come into compliance. We'd already failed 3 times.
Yes.
Is that correct? So, okay, so you started in 2017. Whoopee. My point is how far, so from 2017 to now, we are 134 of 196 switches. And what?
But looking at the schedule of events, by checking through it, it looks as if everything will be completed, is now completed, or will be completed by September 1.
I can't answer that question.
There will be a review in August with Doc Petty to see that, in fact, that will be accomplished.
Well, all of that sounds good. Again, we failed, we've been on probation 3 times.
Everything is in line that by August of 2018, that we will be totally in compliance.
Yeah, right. So what y'all are telling me, those other 3 times we weren't trying to be in compliance? Is that what you're telling me?
No, sir, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay. So again, the comfort level that we're going to be compliant now. You basically got the same employees, which is a whole nother issue I have, and you basically got the same equipment except you're trading out and buying some, some new tires on the car.
Yes, sir, I understand, sir. What we typically did we wanted to go, as the new CISO came on board in June of last year, what we did is we wanted to go through, take, again, a more concentrated approach to make sure we basically were compliant. That was the first charge that the new CISO basically was given, is to go through and actually do the an audit to say, where are we? And then what we did is we went, instead of basically having done a couple of people here, a couple of people there, what we did is we went and actually initiated an infrastructure compliance project team and pull people from the other IT teams and stuff that they go through and actually work on that project, and that's all they did. And so what we typically did is starting in August, I think that a compliance project team basically started in earnest. We're basically working to make that a reality. So in August, they started making, I think the segmentation as far as compensating controls was done in October. And we were basically looking at starting this particular process on relation to end-of-life equipment in November of 2017. But again, there was some additional review that was required. So that we went through the additional review from November until March, until the court actually approved the actual go forward with the end-of-life and end-of-support equipment. And certainly from that particular point, obviously there was a little bit additional review that was done from March until May. But as soon as the court basically gave us final direction on how they want us to proceed, we did so with all due diligence.
Yeah, I heard everything you just said. You got the same employees except one, and basically buying new equipment. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Again, sir, what we can be more than happy to go through, to sit with the commissioner or any one of the commissioner court members to talk about what we typically have done. I think the report basically...
You got the same employees. But for the fact that either Mr. Martin or somebody decided that one of those employees was a problem. You got the same dead-gum employees.
I think one of the other things that we did, though, and that thanks to the court, is we never put the resources to come into compliance. And all those other times that we did fail or were on probation, I mean, it was going to take a lot of money to bring us up to speed. And you guys committed it this time, and thanks to, thanks to you guys. It was our fault, and let me just say, it was our fault for not bringing it to you in the first place. I mean, we should have, back in 2009, 2013, 2015, when we knew it was going to cost a lot of money, we should have brought it to you and said, this is what we needed to get this done.
Mr. Martin, this court has never turned this damn department down.
That's exactly
this department,
right.
When this department has been hemorrhaging the rest of the county, this department has been siphoning in the rest of the county.
That's
okay,
right.
So it ain't the court. I'm not going to take that. It's leadership. It's a department.
Exactly. That's why I said it was our fault for not bringing it to you. And every single one of those times, we should have brought, this is what we need to get this done. It's millions of dollars, but we need to do it. We don't have a choice. Unfortunately, we got to the point we're at now, we don't have a choice. It's going to cost a lot more money now than it would have done if we had done it 3, 5, 7 years ago.
Nobody ain't heard the saying, pay now or pay more later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's where we're at. And that's nobody's fault except right here. We take full responsibility for that.
I still say you're working with the same old crew.
I want to ask a question about employees, because we saw on this court agenda's personnel a position number where a person was in line to move from a juvenile detention officer to a high-level IT person with a $109,000 raise, and that was just unprecedented, and so we looked into it, and we recognized the name. This is a former QNet contractor that worked here in Dallas County, who had some criminal troubles and couldn't stay there, and so he went to the juvenile department and found a way to get in there.
That's not correct.
That's not true. You are the most. You are the most.
Please let me finish.
No, hell no. You're not stating the fact, just like you were doing earlier. Is that the case?
That's not the case.
That's not the case.
The person didn't have a felony conviction.
He had
37 years ago. He had a damn check, but you don't want to get into that. But he ain't no different than one that's over there now.
And
one
if I
that's
could
sitting up
finish,
there right now.
it's my understanding that person was sent over to IT, not because the IT department selected that person, but that person was selected from outside IT at the direction of people outside of IT to get a job there. So that concerns me. The whole Coonsbury thing, where we switched from the court-ordered a path to a path that one commissioner
like
wants,
usual.
and now this, where we're pushing people into jobs. And now understand that person is no longer there because they couldn't pass the criminal background.
But neither could Archer. What's his name?
Lied about the criminal background.
What is his name? What's the white boy? What's the white boy?
Only after their prints were run, were they found to be lying and had to be removed.
What's the white boy's name that we did it for? Huh? What's his name?
So
what's his name?
This is not a.
No, he brought it up. No, what's the name?
Personnel issues that should not be discussed.
Well, okay.
I want to make sure, though, that the personnel decisions are being made by Mr. Victory and not people outside of his department.
Well, and I want to make sure that that they're being made equitable.
Let me just explain what happened with that, because that is not true.
With both positions, Mr. Moore.
I'm only going to talk about the one position that the accusation was made. I asked for, at the time, we were told that Mr. Victory was going to be leaving his position, which meant we had the CIO position vacant and the assistant CIO position
because people tried to push him out of his position.
Well, let me
push your ass out. They ain't been successful yet. But go ahead on.
I asked around, and one of the person I asked was Mr. Hall. Does he know anybody who could fill in as an assistant CIO, somebody who had the skills? The person who we're talking about had worked for QNet for some time on the Dallas County projects. So he knew Dallas County very, very well. When QNet lost that contract, he lost that position. He needed to stay with the county, wanted to be with the county because of some issues that he has regarding his family. He needed the medical. He needed the insurance that we had. That's why he tried to stay within the county. When that position became vacant, I interviewed him, I asked Mr. Victrum to look at him, Mr. Victrum liked him, and we brought him on board. Unfortunately, and he did pass the county background check, he did not pass the CJIS background check. Because of an issue that occurred 37 years ago.
He was chosen by someone else, you or Commissioner Price, correct? And
No, not Commissioner Price, I interviewed him.
I just want to be assured that our department heads make their HR decisions and not others, okay?
Department head and I will make those decisions. I mean,
What's this guy here? Todd Albert? Does he work for you?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Is he in a similar position than the one the judge just talked about?
He is not a chief.
No, I didn't say he was a chief. I asked you, was he in a similar position in what the judge just put out there?
Mr. Alberts is basically has an issue with CJIS access. Well, what we typically have done for him is that because he's a business analyst, he basically is not allowed into the CJIS area. So the thing is that
but the issue is again, is he?
Position is not necessarily the same as what typical position that we talk about.
But he had the same issues with and required Doc Petty to clear it, correct?
But this second person wasn't pushed from outside, and the second person didn't lie about his conviction and have to be discovered as lying, and when they ran his fingerprints, right?
Again, those are personnel discussions, sir. I would typically refer that before the closed session.
Well, all I'm saying is he's still with Dallas County. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But he's not. He's in a position where typically he does not necessarily have access to CJIS information.
But he did require Doc Petty to approve it.
Yes, sir. The thing is that through the as far as the sheriff's office, we were able to go through and actually have that person work in a different capacity.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'll do it.
And again, I just want to know that with our departments, and no disrespect to the administrator's office or other people in the county, but the hiring decisions in HR and the hiring decisions in IT and the hiring decisions in Public Works, I believe, and I think the majority of this court believe, are best made with recommendations from whoever by the people that run those departments and know what they need. And I think that's important because when you have employees that are pushed onto department heads that they didn't choose, it leads to a command and control issue. If I know that I didn't get hired by the department head, and I'm unlikely to be able to be fired by the department head, that leads to a lot of problems regardless of whether the person is qualified.
I'm here enough to know what the hell
Let me, just for the record, Dr. Cooneyberry was hired by Mr. Victor. He was not pushed on him by anybody. I mean,
You know I'm talking about position number 6619.
Right, and that position, I interviewed him. I asked Mr. Victrum to hire him. It was Mr. Victrum's decision to hire the person. Right. I did not push him on him at all. And he knew where he came from, and he knew his background. And actually told me he liked the guy and thought he was qualified. HR qualified him at that level. Did you not? He qualified at that level. So I mean,
he'd always insert his ass.
I was in an issue where I did not have a CIO and I did not have an assistant CIO. At that point, who becomes the person responsible for the department? Decisions have to get made. I mean, right now, believe it or not, I've got 5 vacant department heads. We've got to move forward on filling some of these positions. This would have been number 6.
Work and you never hear. Then you
and you're right. This person, unfortunately, who was highly qualified and did a good job the few weeks that he was here, unfortunately, he made some mistakes, and unfortunately, he also was not truthful. And for that reason, I terminated him. I asked Mr. Victrum, and then I terminated him. He needed to go. But the reality is we've got to fill these positions.
And I agree with that. I think the majority of the court wants a transparent process with the search firm.
Yeah, like
we can move forward with that.
We didn't hear about transparency today.
Because we voted months ago for an RFP, and that was pulled by your office, pulled from purchasing before they could send it out. We need to send that out. And
it's out, Judge. It's out. It's been out. It's been blasted all over the place. Okay. You gave us some names. It's out there.
No, not that half-measured deal with 2 or 3 names.
Mr. Price,
So do we have that out to 60 or 70 people?
That's correct, to all firms.
See, as usual, he part-time. Hell, he don't know. He never hear. Hell, he's either at the law firm or someplace out there camera posing. He doesn't know. He doesn't spend any time on the ground. He
What I'm
comes
not
in.
doing is I'm not
you're not
interjecting
doing-
myself,
you're not doing
and
shit. You're
I'm
not
not
doing
trying to
shit.
do
That's
Mr.
exactly
Victor's
right.
job for him.
You can't do
and
your job.
I'm not going in.
You can't do your job.
and
That's the
trying
reason
to
Ryan
get my
White-
friend's jobs
That's the reason.
in different departments.
Well, give me one. Hell, if you could
6619.
I didn't know this guy any more than he's working around here. The problem is, Judge, your ass is part-time. You don't half-ass work. You half-ass show up. It's the same. That's the reason you don't know what the hell's going on around here.
We're not talking about something I don't know about.
Well,
We're talking about
okay.
something I do know
Well,
about.
you don't know.
That you don't want anybody to hear about.
Well, no, you don't know shit from shit.
But you
It's
know
Shinola.
what?
Shinola.
But you know what, guys? I mean,
Shinola from shit.
in all due respect, our job is to manage.
Thank you.
So, I mean, with that being said, I think that we all are chair of committees, and we have subcommittees. I know we all work with different groups of people and staff in Dallas County. While I respect, my colleagues' right to call any kind of questions at this podium, I think that when we work through our committees, through the Juvenile Committee, through Dallas County Health and Human Services, through CJAP, through IT, through RTC, through Homeland Security and Juvenile with the judge, we do a better job, guys, that when we come over here and we really do not have a presentation that we all can read in advance, that we all can ask questions in advance, that we all can be on the same tune of what the questions are going to be, rather than a two-side of a coin that, we're going to take two different courts, is going to take out the shadow of discomfort and lack of transparency, and more importantly, diminish the power of the administrator, every single department here. I think that the ones with the most knowledge about every department are sitting in front of us. I agree, we have to find permanent directors, Mr. Martin, and the judge has a point. I'm glad to hear all the bids are out there. I will recommend that those recommendations come by the firm that gets selected to do this search, not by this body, not by the administrator, but by the firm. 1, 2, 3. 3 diverse people that will all have the opportunity to interview and to choose. Because the work that we do is seen as a very important job on managing Dallas County. And sometimes when we have these discussions that have no head and no feet, and we don't know where we're going, it just creates a discomfort not only for the public, but from our staff.
Is
as
that
well.
like forum shopping? Hell, I could have left that up to
Commissioner,
the
I
judge.
totally agree with what happened, but the coin had two sides.
The
And
coin
today
had-
we had the other side that we didn't see during our last court session. So,
No, sure we did.
I mean, again, with all due respect to every single member of the court, I think we can do a better job in organizing our sessions, bring items through committees and subcommittees that we're very good doing in this body. I mean, I trust your leadership, Commissioner Price, when it comes to the jail, when it comes to juvenile. I trust the judge when it comes to Homeland Security, Commissioner Cantrell with Transportation, Commissioner Daniels with IT. I might not agree with all the decisions, and you see me voted against you many times, each one of you. But at the end of the day, we have to make some kind of presentation that we all can follow. Right now, I got lost in many parts and points because I didn't know exactly of the presentation of IT. And I read all the briefings.
But
And again, nothing.
They publish
Yes,
it.
yes,
Yeah,
and
I'm
I seen
I
some
bet.
of this, but I sometimes lose track without having a better format to go to. So I will ask all
That
of
has
you.
nothing to do with the format. That has something to do with once you get it, then you start to dive deep.
Yes, but I don't know exactly what you're going into every single issue. The next item on the agenda, I don't know exactly. I didn't get but these presentation that Mr. Bickram, sent us. Other than that, that's all I had. And while I tried to do as much research in every single item that we discussed, sometimes without having what you have, it's very hard for me to know where we're going.
Well, that's because unlike some people, I spend weekends digging through stuff.
I do too, but if you tell me where to dig, I will be more assertive. That's my point. Thank you, colleagues.
I spend the weekends digging, and when I dig and I find it, I bring it. We've been presented, and we all have the same access. We can either pack it off to staff and let them do it, or we can go do it. And some of us go do it. So everything I'd said to Mr. Vikram today, he recognized. You didn't have access to it because you didn't, why, whatever.
I have what he sent me. I spoke with Mr. Bickram.
No, I'm talking about, I'm back to internal controls.
Again?
I'm back to the two people having authorization. He just told you, just change that. He didn't change that because, members of this court, he changed it because some of us were digging and we found something that, was different.
And what we can do is when we have some questions about anything in Dallas County, we can ask Mr. Bickram. Mr. Bickram, would you please make a presentation?
Sure.
And he will do it, and then we all go and we all have the opportunity to ask questions.
That's the reason it's on the.
Same thing with the auditor. If we have any questions, or with
That's the
Mr.
reason
Price.
it's on the docket.
But that way, we all follow the same venue and we can ask.
Okay, that's the reason it's on the docket.
Okay.
The presentation. Okay. Second part, the information technology projects or the information technology management. Talked about all of that. I see Garrett is here for TechShare projects.
Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray? Yeah. I've got all the TechShare, I pulled all the court orders with regards to TechShare. I'm trying to figure out, where are we? Where are we? TechShare courts. We sat there this morning and we talked a lot about a lot of things, but where are we? I'm showing TechShare courts spending a $24 million. Prosecutor, $1.7 million. JP, $3 million. Jail, $7 million. Pull up, that's 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 court orders. $36 million. So where are we on TechShare courts?
We prepared, this is Charles Gray, I'm the TechShare Program Director for the Texas Conference of Urban Counties. We've prepared a final go-live plan that staff is evaluating on TechShare Court now. We've developed a punch list of the final items that need to be addressed, and as soon as we have approval on that plan, we're going to move forward with that punch list.
Okay, well, when is go live though?
I think what our goal right now is to have the finals.
You had May.
I understand. We had the final softwares, if the plan's approved, will be ready by the end of August, and then we'll finish the data conversion, and the go-live will be determined by the county once the software is ready.
So we've gone from May, so now it's going to be August?
It'll be August when the software is ready. That won't be the go-live, because the county will still need time to do training and finish the data conversion and such.
We're 2 years behind.
It's estimated that there's about 5 months of work once the software is ready until go-live.
And that's not how many delays is this now?
I think this is the third delay, but I'm not positive on that, Judge.
What caused some of those delays?
A variety of factors, but I'll summarize it as three major things. One is stabilizing the business processes and requirements so that we can build that into the software. Since this is custom software, it's built to the county specifications. And as we've gone through the iterations of looking at the business processes, there's been a number of new things that the county would like to do to
You're
improve the
talking-
process.
That's actually referring to the way that the court systems move
That's right.
cases through the
The way they
process.
move cases through the process. The second thing would be the data conversion. A good example of that is at first the decision was made to convert only the active cases, and we spent quite some time figuring out exactly what was an active case. For example, is an active case a case that still has money that's owed to the county? Then the third reason is the preparation of the software itself. It's taken longer than we thought to get the software ready.
But in 2012, court order number 2012-2110 appropriated $7,898,229. And we said that we were going to have it by,
That was actually the initial development and acquisition of the software.
okay, but,
with
then,
AMCAD.
but we said May 15th.
That was when the software would be completed. That's right.
Okay. Then court order 2015-800 for $10,511,060. We said we we're going to be ready by May 17th.
That was the total county budget, including CUC and county costs. We're still operating under that court order to implement the software.
Okay. And so the last court order we did was 2016-1360, was $1.2 million.
I'm not familiar with that topic. Could you clarify that?
$1,237,500 was which brought us up to $24,593,000. And so now we're saying August.
August, the software will be ready. That's not the go-live date.
So what? Okay, so software will be ready. The go-live, and we don't know what the go-live date is?
We haven't set that yet because we want to look at the next pass of the data conversion and see how close we are to having the data conversion complete. There'll be some tweaks to the data conversion once the software is ready. So there'll be a couple of months where we have to finalize the data conversion, cleanse the data, make sure it's all accurate, and we can get the training ready at that time too.
We're in full bloom on
I'm sorry, sir?
prosecutor mode. We've got prosecutor.
Prosecutor's fully implemented. We have I think all the law enforcement agencies are on the system.
I think there's 5 small ones.
5 small ones are not on. We're supporting about
How many?
6,000.
Small departments.
Supporting about 6,000 defense attorneys. So with all the defense attorneys are online. We're fully compliant with the Michael Morton Act. We've implemented integration to some of the new web camera vendors that the cities are seeing a great value in that. They've written some letters of appreciation to the county about implementing that. So prosecutors fully implemented.
I did read a thing with
Justice of the Peace, we came up with an alternative plan there where we would standardize on a certain set of requirements that would be the go-live requirements. We made a recommendation, and we want the Justices of the Peace to agree to that. So far, we've been unable to get their agreement on that minimum set of requirements to go live. If we continue to come up with new requirements for go live, then that extends the project. We're calling that the go-live release and trying to get them to agree to it. Once they'll agree to that, then in a few months we can have that release ready because most of the software.
Who's driving that project? I mean, he said, can you get agreement from the Justice of the Peace?
Judge Sider, Commissioner Price, was yesterday at CJAP, and he
Judge-
said that he's done everything in his power to comply with that, and that
I can't
he
respond to
is-
those questions, sir. I'm not.
Judge Jones and Judge Saccone are the 2 leaders of that project. And seriously,
I mean, really? I mean,
Yeah, they don't have any.
but we got $3 million sitting over there, and with those 2 court orders, 15 and 17, $3 million, 3-1 to be exact, and nobody knows what the heck is going on.
But yeah, I mean, Craig Morrissey, who's in charge of all our tech share projects, he's on top of it from our side. I mean, in terms of trying to get agreement from the Justice of the Peace, that's another thing. I mean, we've been working closely with them, but, again, we've got 10 Justices of the Peace with 10 different courts, and they do things 10 different ways. So Craig has been doing a good job with Todd, I believe it's Todd Albert, trying to bring them together. But again, that's been somewhat of a challenge with the JPs.
And so jail is...
Jail, actually, we've changed our approach. The original budget, total budget for jail was about $13 million, with Tarrant and Dallas sharing that cost, and Midland is still considering coming in. We've changed the approach on the project, and we think we're going to come in at $2.6 million under budget. We have our first software presentation June 29th to the sheriff's departments for Dallas and Tarrant. We're very optimistic. For our target date is December to finish the first release of the software.
So that means Tarrant put in 6 because we put in 7 million.
Something like that. I don't have those exact figures in front of me.
I'm looking at what in your first presentation to them?
June 29th is our first presentation. We have monthly presentations, and we're on our very first round at the end of this month. That, of course, is software that we're building from scratch, like we did juvenile and prosecutor.
And then juvenile also. We've been up and operating juvenile for how long?
Many years.
Yeah.
Long enough for me to see Mike return.
I didn't even put the 36 million. I didn't even put juvenile in.
No, that's been up and running for years.
I mean, I knew prosecutor was there. That's $1.7 million. But these others they're the big ones.
They're the big ones. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 24 million for courts, 7 million for jail, 3 million justice of the peace. You know, those are, you know, that's the 36 million without juvenile. And
Since 2000 and...
Well, court's been the most difficult of those, as you pointed out. If you recall, in the middle of that project, AMCAD went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And so we took over the software at CUC. That was the vendor that was supplying the software. And so that's been a difficult project since the beginning.
Yeah, because CUC has been late in delivering pretty much everything, right?
I wouldn't agree with that, Commissioner. I think on the court project, we've really struggled to get it on schedule. I think with juvenile and prosecutor and with jail, we've demonstrated that we can develop really high-quality software that the customer appreciates.
When was juvenile started? How many years?
2007.
2007.
Yeah, and it was implemented in Dallas County, I think, in 2011.
It's the only thing that's been working.
Prosecutor.
Well, prosecutor. Yeah, prosecutor. But prosecutor, Commissioner, what was prosecutor? Prosecutor was $1.7 million.
That was an implementation. That wasn't the development cost.
That's not the development cost on that.
Okay. What was the development cost?
The development total was about $5.7 million. That was shared by several counties: Travis, Dallas, Midland.
Dallas got $1.7 million in it.
I think that was implementation. I'm not sure. That court order, what year was that court order that you're looking at?
2015.
I think that's implementation costs.
2015, 08, 02.
We were the first one to implement it.
Development was before that, yeah. It was right after we implemented TechShare Juvenile, so development was probably in 2013. Depends how far back you went, Commissioner. I understood you were going back 5 years.
Yeah, well, I did. I went back to 2011.
Yeah, we did a presentation, Craig and I, last summer, you may recall, and we did the entire history of TechShare. And I'd be happy to update that presentation and come before you again, as Commissioner Garcia
I would love
recommended. And really go through the entire history again and update it for you so you can see exactly where we are. Because some parts of our track record I'm really proud of, and some, we've struggled.
Yeah, but just without development cost, 36 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. I understand that.
When you look at the major systems that you're talking about there, that's huge. It's huge.
Once we finish the jail implementation, you're going to have a completely integrated justice system, county-owned system, and you wouldn't be able to get that necessarily with a commercial vendor.
But the thing is, if we haven't gone in other direction, we probably will be done.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand
right now
that.
to the civil district courts, and they can't even make their computers work. And that's your off-the-shelf system, and they can't make it work.
I can't.
They can't even input. Well,
I'm not aware of those issues. That's not
one of our projects.
Gotcha. Well, I would love to see the texture follow-up
We'd be happy to
presentation
schedule a
with new
follow-up
members
presentation.
and new challenges.
What is the cost for implementation of all,
For which?
for courts?
The $10 million court order that you referenced was for implementation of Texture Court.
The 2015 court order, that's for implementation.
That's right. It was in the summer of 2015, I believe.
So, in other words, the $25 million that on court, no more money. You just need to,
We need to finish up.
no more money.
I heard you.
Yeah, well, as you said, 8/18, you said it's going to be, and you're going to have the software, so you can come back after that and give us some.
Okay, we'll schedule it with Darrell. Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners.
I do want to schedule the full presentation.
Yeah, the full presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spent. Folks, we're just going to kick the ball down the court, down the street anyway, so.
Who is?
Anyway, that's it.
We're going to continue working till all of the projects are complete.
Presentation.
Well, finish it, Commissioner.
No, I got a problem, but again, we'll figure it out, go deal with personnel, since Heather wants to talk about personnel, we'll start putting personnel numbers on, so we can talk about it. Okay.
All right. So next we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved, but my computer is not working, so.
That's okay. It's
Second, she's good. Second.
Okay. You let me know when you're ready, since
Lori?
You okay?
Just nod at me or something, since it's.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there are no bids on the agenda.
My computer works.
Oh, well, somebody just nod and tell me when it's up, because mine does not work.
Yeah, mine doesn't work
Okay.
either.
I figured.
So,
Mine's here,
Yours is working,
mine
right?
works.
oh, good for you. All right, so no bids today, and now we're on to the court orders. We've got, I think that might be wrong.
1 through 41.
1 to 41.
Okay, that is right. Okay, we have court orders 1 through 41, and I only have one pull, and that's 11 pursuant to HHS, but are there not more pulls? Or is that it?
Number 11?
Oh, and the juvenile appeal. So I don't think we vote on the, do we vote on, we don't. Okay, so let's do that later. All right, so is there any discussion on the court order? Oh, first I need a motion and a second.
You're pulling number 11?
HHS is pulling 11, and the status of that is we'll do something very, very similar to that. We may be able to do it, get started on that pretty quickly. We want to work in close, we were in a conference call with HRSA, we were told to ask to wait to do that. Right, she asked a question.
No, but it's not.
That's not, no.
Oh, okay, well, I'll tell you about it later, but it's all good.
But that item 11 is different because that item was pulled. It was never meant to be on the agenda. It was pulled before the item.
Right.
That's
not the
so
same.
it should be on the agenda. That HRSA item.
The HRSA item is 2.
If you have questions, I'll answer them later.
It's
But
2.
food establishment, that's why
It's number 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
2.
pull court order number 2 instead of 11. I'll move court orders 1 through 41, excluding court order 2.
Okay, I don't think okay, so, well, what is 2?
2 is the funding stream. It's
Yeah,
right here.
the intervention
This
clinic, the
continues
Ryan
at
White.
Ryan White, right, and the early.
Okay, no, that's
intervention.
not what we wanted to pull. I realize that, but now the discontinuance of the Ryan White funding stream, I thought we went over that and we could do that.
We
We
did.
did last time.
We did.
We asked for it for 2 weeks, so we bring it back. So that's why.
Okay, and what you're, so what I got in the original book is that thing that we inadvertently put on there.
That's pulled.
You pull completely off. So we don't need to pull, unless somebody else wants to pull 2. Ganesh and I did not want to pull 2.
Correct.
Then I'll move court orders 1 through 41.
second.
I didn't know.
Right.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Now, there's this number 6, are we getting ahead of that? I see Mr. Heichel is not here today. I've got some real issues. Why are we getting out there and we don't have our money yet?
It's the interlocal agreement with,
I'm clear about what it is.
Okay.
But we're talking about basically our money and their money. We haven't gotten our money from the state or anything else yet.
No.
Okay.
NITBA has not received their money.
Okay, so
Yes.
why are we that's my point. Why are we jumping out there?
Well, the plan was that we were anticipating getting the money.
I got it.
And we don't want to be behind the curve when trying to get everything in place to start it as soon as we get the money. So that's why we're planning all that we can at this point. And when we receive the money, then we'll finalize the things that we can do at that time. No, they do not.
No. It's state, and from what we were told in the meeting, they're behind, the person was there, it's gone, they got somebody new over contract. I'm just trying to figure out why we're jumping out there with their local agreement.
There won't be any funding for this until such time as
Exactly.
the state provides the funding to NIPA, and then NIPA is able to provide the funding to Dallas County. But you do have civil service processes you need to go through to create positions, and so this allows us to get through there. Obviously, the departments cannot hire anybody until they actually have funding available. You'll note the date was April 1st.
Yes.
So obviously, the state anticipated getting us the funding a lot earlier, but they're having their own contracts issues. And so the funding is stuck, and we will continue to work with the state to get the money as soon as possible.
so it's a procedural.
It is, and I know that the CJ department, who is getting one position out of this, and I believe also the pretrial department, who's also getting one position, we are looking at using existing staff as appropriate so that we won't be, impacted by, the length of time that it might take to bring somebody new in. So we are exploring options so that as far as personnel, it'll be as low impact as possible.
Thank you.
And also, this agreement is also to make sure that we can put things in place to share information.
Well,
So,
I don't have the same, I'm gonna pull it.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it, 6, I'm pulling it.
Okay, so 1 through 41, excluding Court Order 6.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Randall.
Court order number 18, is that the industry standard? Is that 3% or what? 3% per what?
Typically, I'm sorry, sir, 3% per year. That's what the court has previously approved. They approved that last year as well. But that's typically the cost of living.
And the cost of that 3%, when you say the cost of living, what does that 3% represent? Approximately.
It's down in the actual briefing, sir, down in the totals. I think it was $15 or some $1,000. Let me go to it right quick. 15.2, yes, sir.
That's all it is per year.
Per year, and that's
And is this a
increased.
3-year contract?
No, sir, that's typically, we have, this is the annual
Annual?
maintenance. Yes, sir, annual maintenance agreement. And typically, I guess the principle is as their expenses increase based upon the people that support the systems on their side, this basically kind of offset those costs and stuff there for.
It's $500,000 maintenance every year, you're right.
Should we do a 3% increase for texture every year? Yeah.
Don't pull her leg, don't pull her leg. But 3% is an average, right, Mr. Vikram, in the industry, period. You know,
The industry average is
higher.
Is higher.
because I'm telling you, my private business, the maintenance is higher.
So how much should texture get additionally every year?
No, Texture already has $27 million.
Do you know what Tyler got
And I
for
don't
the
have it,
implementation of?
and I don't have a system
Civil?
starting since 2004, so.
Good grief.
3%
Okay,
actually in
1
the long
through
run is
41,
not bad.
excluding 6. Call the question.
Okay.
We're gonna miss you, Commissioner Cantwell.
I know it. I'm going to miss it, I guarantee you.
You're gonna have a
And I
great
do
time.
want to say to Rick's, thank you. The funding source that's coming out of
That's out of the open space program. It's a correction order. When you consider it or approve the overall conveyance of the other easements and right away 2 weeks ago, I inadvertently put down the wrong funding number. And it was associated with the historical commission, which is the other fund that I deal with. And it was just
have it.
Okay,
Which
got
one is
it.
it?
24. And that's the correcting funding source for court order, removal of the unused portion of Wintergreen Road. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
project that we have over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's a good
Got it,
one.
got it. And Parkland thing is done, so I'm fine. Question's been called. I'm sorry.
All right. All those in favor?
Go ahead.
No, you had something?
Go ahead.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, now,
Judge, I just have one other item. On the addendum travel, and I know I sent this to you, Mr. Martin and Mr. Brown, and my colleagues as well. There's a road and bridge request for traveling, and I believe that there's a mistake. I mean, Stephen Hopkins, Brittany Martin, Elizabeth Roth, and Richard Davis to attend District 4 East Region Path to the play workshop. That's
That should have been-
agricultural land.
It should have been text.
And I'm not paying for that. So,
Nor would we expect you to.
Thank you, Mr.
I read your email. I thought you said you were paying for it.
now I say I was not.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, and I'm glad I recognize some of the names. I'm sure it was just a minor mistake. Do not worry. I will not pay.
on items K and L listed, the juvenile is pulling L13 off the agenda as per Mr. Griffith. Do any court members have any questions or comments on items K and L?
Nope.
Hearing none. I don't see a list of registered speakers. Do I not have any?
Yeah, we have. You have 4.
Okay. I just didn't get my list up there, Jasper. All right. And so next we move on to our registered speakers. Will the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our registered speakers?
Mr. Warren.
Excuse me, Judge, if I can.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss you somewhere?
No, I just want to make an announcement. I'd just like the court to appreciate Laurie Mitchell. She will be leaving us, and to wish her farewell. She'll be joining a nonprofit in Arlington. So
What's
this is
the
her last
nonprofit?
session. This is her last Commissioner Sweetheart session with us.
It's
Thank you, Laurie, for all that
Mitchell's
you've done.
last day.
Thank you, Lauren.
And where are you going, Laura?
And Mr. Warren, we wanted
Give
her
a
to
plug for your
stay.
nonprofit if you want to. Did I hear nonprofit?
Yes.
So give us a plug. Where is it?
It's in Fort Worth.
I know, but what's the name of the nonprofit?
I just don't want to talk about all that.
Okay, all right. I'm
We
just
don't blame you.
giving you a chance to plug it. Sorry, didn't mean to give you unwanted attention there. All right, so will the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our public
I'll
speakers.
miss you.
Where's our bailiff?
We've been unprotected all day.
Hey, Winnie, will you call one of those bailiffs to come in?
He's trying to run.
Where are they? We bore them to
Hey,
death.
somebody, come on in and read that stuff.
I know we are boring, but, we really need you around, guys.
All right, please proceed.
All commissioners' court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of Dallas County Code, Section 7471. Visitors and registered speakers are to their order and inform at all times. Personal profane and slanderous remarks are not appropriate and are not be allowed at any time during the public meeting. Any and all clauses to protect free commitment of services at all expense. Obstructed visitors or registered speakers may be removed or are subject to penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code, Section 38.13, 42.01, and 4205. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and maximum discussion and speaking on the topic is limited to 3 minutes.
All right, and our first public speaker, thank you very much. Our first public speaker is Ms. Brandy Maricoy. May have gotten that slightly wrong. Brandy Maricoy. And our next public speaker is Ms. Janata Montgomery. Hi, come on up. Doing great, come on up.
I'm better known as Queen Janata Montgomery, though. Thank you.
Put on my script, I'll
I'm
call you
sorry,
Queen.
Queen.
Thank you, darling. I wanted to bring some concerns that I had about Parkland Hospital. And the things that I had noticed is for people who are disabled or you know, we would need quiet places to wait for our appointments. And so when we are at a point where it's very noisy, I've noticed that they've closed off the meditation room for people, and the police got involved because he felt that the chapel should not be also accessible to people who have disabilities. That's a quiet area as well. And being that Parkland is 24 hours, you know, if the meditation room is not available, the chapel should have been at least available. And so what I had noticed that was people that were having access to the meditation room were the employees, and they were asleep. And this was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, I was harassed by one of the officers for wanting to wait into the chapel room, and I had already got the doctor's orders that they would come and get me from the chapel if and when they were ready for me to go to the appointment. And so that was my concern, because I had 2 run-ins with the same officer, and I had to talk to the chief of police at Parkland about the matter. And so after that, then I was approached again by the same officer. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, that I've noticed that the officers are not mandating the areas where people have to come in and drop off people. The DART is having a problem with the shuttle. There's nobody surveillancing that area for the old and the new Parkland. And so I'm not sure exactly if we don't have enough staff for the police, the Dallas County Police, to be helping out DART, but for people who are disabled, we are having a hard time getting on the shuttle. Also, let's see, there was brought to my attention that children are being killed at the Children's Hospital. They are either overdosed, and this is, or either killed on the table by MDs. And so this is brought to me by a nurse practitioner, and she says that I'm not going to come forward because she feels like she's going to lose her license. And I want to know from you all, is that how it works? Is that when people see things that are happening, I wouldn't penalize a person that would need to come forward about these violations for them to lose their license. You know, so they're not coming forward.
All right, you're out of time. Normally, we have one up there, but my computer doesn't work. So.
That's okay. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. So our next speaker is Mr. Chad Purda. Mr. Chad Purda. Okay. Hold on like that. Hey, man.
Howdy. I've come here today to talk about a pay disparity within Dallas County employees. This pay disparity started the day we froze our pay and has continued to this point forward.
What's your address?
Sorry, my address is 14900 Lassiter in Dallas, Texas.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I'm not asking the court to do anything about it today. All I'm asking is to acknowledge that the pay disparity is a problem and be willing to hear solutions to it. Moving forward from today, we need to come up with a solution. Employees that aren't placed in their correct pay scale are leaving the department. They're leaving not only our department, but all Dallas County departments. The loss of a 10 to a 15-year employee is a tragedy at this point, just for a pay scale disparity. Experience is invaluable in our line of work and in any line of work. You know, a good example of that is within my own department. Agencies are taking veteran officers for $10,000 to sometimes $20,000 more than they're paid right now. If officers were placed on the step this court voted on, that number would be 6 to 7. We wouldn't lose veteran officers for that little amount of money. The pride within Dallas County employees is amazing, but pride's only carrying us so far. It's coming to a point that officers that employees and that the working force is starting to have to look elsewhere. We're not asking to be placed in this correct step overnight. We're just asking for a clear, concise light at the end of the tunnel. There's a big hit to an employee's retirement when they are carried at a lower step for as many years as many of our employment have. And employees are starting to pay attention to that. As I said, other agencies, other entities, other governmental entities that pay based off of experience are farming our good officers, our good employees, simply because we can't catch up. The longer we wait, the deeper that hole gets. Right now, there is a number to dig us out of it and get us close. We're not asking for that overnight. Next year, that number will be greater. The year after that, that number will be greater. The longer we wait, the deeper this gets. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Mr. Richard Sheridan.
Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners Court. Appreciate being here. Here to speak about the New York City and California's homeless shelter law as it relates to addressing Dallas, addressing its homeless problems. I'll start off by quoting Thomas Paine. These are the times that try men's souls, certainly. And the issues that are trying our souls today are materialism, suicides, school shootings, teen pregnancies, opioid addictions, political and racial tensions, child sex trafficking, poverty, and homelessness. I stated many years ago that our homeless are like miners' canaries, warning us of the dangers that are coming and a reflection of our morally deteriorating society. The Bible says that we must take care of our poor and homeless, and if we don't, we will be sorely punished. Since we obviously don't follow God's laws concerning taking care of our homeless, then we must create some civil laws to address this most important issue. And here's what New York City and what California are doing to address this problem. In New York City, the landmark victory in 1979 lawsuit, Callahan versus Carey, paved the way for further legal victories, ensuring the right to shelter homeless men, women, children, and families in New York City. When modern homelessness first emerged in the late 1970s, thousands of homeless New Yorkers were forced to fend for themselves on the streets, and many died or suffered terrible injuries. That's going on today in Dallas. In 1979, a lawyer named Robert Hayes co-founded the Coalition for the Homeless and brought a class action lawsuit by the Supreme Court. Basically, today, there's 63,000 homeless men, women, and children in the city of Dallas, and all of them have to be provided shelter by this law. In California, homeless shelter crisis measure, quote, "Don't let them down," the mayor, Brown said. That was the message accompanying California Governor Jerry Brown's sign-off on a new law Saturday that gives cities more power to build shelters for the homeless. The law authorizes San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and select other cities struggling with the homelessness to ignore land use plans, convert public buildings, and suspend other zoning laws to create temporary housing. In California, I believe the homeless population represents at least 20% of the homeless in the United States of America. So the measure passed the legislature with support of those cities with no registered opposition. I'm here today to call for our county commissions to both open county buildings to shelter our homeless and to do all you can to pressure both the city of Dallas and our governor and state legislature so that we can have similar New York and California homeless sheltering programs to address Dallas' homeless crisis. Our homeless population has increased about 24% last year and has doubled in the last 10 years, going from 5,000 to 12,000. Today, very little has been done to significantly reduce our unsheltered homeless population, with most of the funds being allocated for permanent supportive housing, which could take 5 years or longer, and $500 million. So lastly, we must change our priorities and our approaches if we want to see major reductions in our unsheltered homeless population. Thank you.
Sorry, no, that's okay. I can't see.
Oh, she's got my back.
No. Yeah. Thanks, guys. All right, so this concludes our open session of court. We're going to adjourn for our closed session, which it looks to me to be short. Darrell, would you agree it's going to be relatively short?
Relatively short, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to do that. My strong guess is you're here about unaccompanied minors. If you like, you can take the tape down and sit here, because I imagine I'm going to be with you for a while. I'll answer your questions, but we have to do this first. And And so closed, the session will begin in 1 minute. Hey, you guys just set up and I'll be right back. I can do it up here, it's fine, or whatever,